Live? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the town board meeting. It's Thursday, May 16th, and just would like to welcome everyone and make a motion that we go into executive session. Well, that we open the meeting and we go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, you say that.
Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Councilmember Rebillard.
Yes.
Councilmember Ham.
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So welcome to the Amenia Town Board meeting, Thursday, May 16th, 2024. I would like to make a motion that we open the meeting.
Okay. 7:05. Supervisor.
second.
I'll second.
Yeah, we need the second first. Okay.
Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Councilmember Winters.
Yes.
Councilmember Rebillard.
Yes.
Councilmember Ham.
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll start by saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And emergency exits, the door you came in and the door you didn't come in. We have, let's see, we have two yes.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, we have to do the roll call. Thank you. You just have to call the roll and we have to say we're here.
Supervisor Blackman.
Yes.
Councilmember Winters.
Yes.
Councilmember Rebillard.
Yes.
Councilmember Ham.
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern.
Here.
How about that? So we have two presentations tonight. One is Mary Beth Bianconi from Delaware Engineering about the water district, and the second one from Michael Peak. But if you're ready, Mary Beth, I think we'll start with you. Wait a minute. Well, you speak from the microphone, but I thought the screen was used earlier in the day, and I thought it came down here afterwards. I guess it didn't. You need to plug in you need to do a PowerPoint or a slide deck, right?
Since I sent it earlier, I thought you loaded it, so I actually don't have it.
Oh, did you load that, Mike? We did get it early.
I have nothing.
It was sent to you earlier.
It's working on the top one, and the screen's gone, everything's gone.
So I think we'll just talk about it.
I think you'll just talk about it. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I'll come over here.
There's a
so-
microphone.
Unless you need me on the mic, I'm kind of loud.
Gotta stand there by that.
Well, they won't. The people in our TV listening audience will
Okay.
not.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Beth Bianconi, and I'm a partner with Delaware Engineering. We're an engineering firm here in the valley, in the area. We have an office in Red Hook. We are not from the state of Delaware. We're from the Delaware River Water Gap over in the southern Catskills. That's where the firm was created about 30 years ago. I've been with the company for 28 years, and we're a civil engineering firm. I was asked to come here tonight to talk a little bit about who we are as a company, and then a little bit about what we do with respect to water systems, public water systems, and then a little bit about Water District Number 1 and what we're doing right now and what's going to be coming up in the future. So, as I mentioned, we were an engineering firm created in the 1980s by actually a husband and wife team who had worked for DEC Region 7 in their division of water. So we are sort of truly mom and pop civil engineers. We do almost all public work. Probably 85% of what we do is public. The balance that's not public is we do economic development work for folks like IDAs and communities where they want investment, and we also work for industry. We specialize in doing water and wastewater for industrial projects, but don't think, crazy things. Think about like the food industry. We work heavily in the dairy industry. We work for Chobani Greek Yogurt. We're their engineer. We work in other aspects of the food and beverage industries. We work for breweries and distilleries. We do a little bit of work in the semiconductor industry, and we do other types of work, again, in industry, but most of what we do is public infrastructure. So drinking water systems, wastewater systems, drainage systems, public buildings of every kind you can think of, parks, small roads and bridges, those kinds of things. We have a staff of today about 77 people in 5 offices. I'm in our Albany office, which is, if you're familiar with that area, we're right where 87 and 90 kind of cross each other. We have offices in Oneonta, Red Hook here in the county. We have an office in Port Chester down in Westchester. We have an office in Goshen in Orange County and one in Monticello and Sullivan County. So we cover the lower Hudson Valley. We do work all the way up to the Canadian border and really the whole east side of the state, including Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam. We don't go to the city. We don't go to Long Island. It's just a bridge too far. But those are the kinds of things that we do. My background is actually in planning and infrastructure planning. It's in the regulatory side of infrastructure planning. It's in finance and making sure that you can want to design all of the water and sewer systems in the world, but if folks can't afford them, it doesn't matter. So our practice is a little bit different because we marry the engineering and technology with the regulatory, with the ability to make a sustainable system, which is both environmentally sustainable, meaning it meets its requirements and the demands of its consumers, and it's economically sustainable over the long haul. My guess is you all live in a beautiful community, but investments in infrastructure are some of the most expensive things that you do. I know you're contemplating a highway garage. That project cost estimate's a year old. It will be a lot more. I mean, we've just seen project costs go up and up. So finding things and ways to make public infrastructure so that it serves the public but doesn't bury the public in debt and operation and maintenance costs is a really important part of the work that we do. And that is a really important part of the work that I do. Here in the county, just so everybody knows, places that we've worked, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but certainly worked in the village of Red Hook, we've worked in the village of Rhinebeck, Hyde Park, Beacon, both the town and village of Fishkill, East Fishkill, Millbrook, and I'm probably missing a few along the way, but we do a lot of work here. And then I'm looking at my PowerPoint because I'm like, oh, I don't even remember what was in here. But a couple of other quick notes about me. I'm the current chair of Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress. Some of you may be familiar with Pattern. If you're not, I encourage you to check them out. They're a quality of life not-for-profit that does social science research here in the Hudson Valley. Some of the work recently is really, really, really good work on housing and housing unaffordability. I walked in and saw that you have a sign up about that. There's a lot of really good research on Pattern's website about that. Daycare, the lack of daycare is a huge issue because we don't have employees, but employees who could be employees can't be employees because they don't have daycare. Sometimes they don't have housing. It's a big circle. So check that out, please. And then I'm also on the board. I'm the treasurer of the Orange County Partnership for Economic Development over a couple counties over. And again, there's this real intersection there. If you love your community, you need to figure out how your community can have an economy that allows you to continue to love it and continue to keep it the way that it is. So that's me. Some of the stuff that we do with respect to drinking water systems, so I'll just kind of go over this stuff. It would be on a nice slide for you to see. Source water development, so groundwater, wells, springs, that's the systems that you guys have. We also do surface water work, so reservoirs, lakes, streams, rivers, those kinds of things. Treatment, so basic disinfection, which is what your system has, so that it's safe to drink, but also filtration systems. We are, like many civil engineers now, very attuned to emerging contaminants. We do a lot of work with things that you've been hearing about in the news, PFAS being one of the bigger ones, but we also do work with disinfection byproducts, which is another, if you have a surface water source, is another issue of potential contaminants. We work a lot on emerging contaminants. We've done a lot of projects in these areas, and also some of the more boring stuff, but some of the stuff that's really important, which is just simply basic aesthetics of water quality. if your water quality, particularly if you have groundwater wells, if they're high in iron, high in manganese, high in sulfur, your water can smell like rotten eggs or a skunk, all depends on your nose, and you can end up with brown water that everyone will say, oh, it's very safe to drink, but it stains your toilet and you can't use your washing machine, kind of a problem. So we work on treatment really across the board there. And then obviously storage and distribution being kind of the last pieces of this. So storage would be, you have a storage tank, would be the proper location, size, operation, maintenance of that tank. And then, we work with all the different, there's a lot of different ways to build a storage tank. Well, agnostic with respect to what kind of storage tank you have, as long as it works for you. And then there's water lines and obviously booster stations and hydraulics, because you need to make sure systems have adequate water pressure. So those are some of the things that we do. Our expertise, I mentioned some of this stuff. From a regulatory perspective with a drinking water system, you may be surprised at how many people are involved. So the taking of water from the environment in New York State is regulated by the Department of Environmental Conservation, because water is treated like a resource, just like bluestone, or if it was gold in the ground or anything else. In New York State, that's the regulatory scheme. So the Department of Environmental Conservation is involved in the taking of water from a lake, a river, a stream, a spring, or the ground. They regulate that. In some places, there are more folks who regulate that. In your location, pretty much just them. The Department of Health also regulates drinking water. They regulate, once the water's out of the ground, what's its quality, how is it delivered, how is the pressure adequate for residential uses. And in your case, that's your county health department. Dutchess County has a county health department that deals directly with public water supplies. So we certainly know the folks there as well. And then over all of this is the US EPA, because a lot of our drinking water regulations begin at the federal level. Although I will say New York State, many of you may be aware, with the topic of emerging contaminants has really been at the forefront of this because of Hoosick Falls and Washington Lake over in Newburgh with PFAS. And so that's kind of a topic that's continuing to evolve. But New York State really led the parade on that. The federal government is now catching up. And that is not uncommon for New York State to be at the forefront of leading regulatory issues, particularly with respect to water quality. Other things that we do, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is financing for these projects. There are, and you will hear if you talk to your congressman, a senator, you talk to your state senator, you talk to your assembly person, sometimes even down to the level of county government, they'll be like, oh, there's billions of dollars out there in grant funds and low-cost financing. That's true. There are. That is a factual statement. There are there's tons and tons of money. More money now than maybe we've had since sometime in the 1980s. Because the original environmental regulations for the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act were adopted in the kind of forerunners in the 60s and really heavily in the 70s. They were originally unfunded mandates. The states and everyone else complained. The federal government stepped up with massive grant programs. And so in the late 70s and early 1980s, tons of infrastructure was built. And then everybody kind of walked away from it for a while. In the 90s, with enhanced surface water treatment rules, there was a resurgence of funding for drinking water systems, and that has now kind of waned. Now there is new interest in drinking water systems again because of these emerging contaminants you keep hearing about, PFAS, lead in your drinking water, those kinds of things. But on the what they euphemistically call the clean water side, which is sewage, there's been a fair amount of money available there as well. And with something called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which was adopted in November of 2021, there was a new infusion of federal dollars that we have not seen in decades in drinking water and wastewater. It is a 5-year program, so it's 2024, that was 2021, so we do a little bit of math. That money has to be allocated and on the street in the next couple of years, so timing is good here. And then the state also, generally the state is sort of acts as an arm of the federal government to hand out money that the federal government provides. But New York State also set up something called the Infrastructure Improvement Act in 2015 and reauthorized it in 2017, and has in every budget year since then. And that is also grant funds, so it's money you don't have to pay back, for drinking water and wastewater projects. And what's a little bit unique about that program, many of the federal programs are targeted either at you have a significant public health threat or a threat to the environment. And I mean significant, like you would be scared. You'd be going home at night and scared, right? So this is kind of a big deal. Or you're a community with vast economic need. You know, you have folks who are living at or around the poverty level or certainly below New York State's median income. So those programs are very much targeted towards folks, and if you have the intersection of those things, you sort of hit the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. For everybody else, it can be tough. The needs remain the same, but it can be difficult. New York State's what we call WIA, Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, is agnostic with respect to both a public health or an environmental threat and the ability to pay. What it's designed to do is come in and help projects that need to happen in communities that maybe don't meet all of those rigid little standards of state and federal regulations, but the project needs an infusion of grant money to go and to get done and to bring value in a community. So those are great programs that was reauthorized in this year's budget. It's very popular. I call it underfunded. The state calls it oversubscribed. They are really the same thing. There's not enough money for everybody who needs the money. But those are great programs. We also work with federal programs, regional resources. I forget, you know, how many millions and millions of dollars we get every year in grants, but we have a dedicated grant team. It's all they do is write grants for water and sewer projects and administer them. So that's kind of a neat thing that we do. And then obviously, you know, we design systems, we get regulatory approvals, we do cost estimating, we support bidding, and we do the work of making sure after you've done all of that, that the contractor is actually building what you are supposed to be paying for. So we do all of that. We have a really robust construction management team, lots of engineers. And folks, we also have a number of people on our staff who are licensed operators for both water and sewer systems. So while we don't operate systems, because we have engineers who are also operators, we really respect your operators. We want them to be part of the process. We listen to what they have to say, and we want to make sure that they understand the project, that they buy in, that they approve of the equipment and the approach, and that they get proper training and support through the process. Because you can, again, you can build something fancy and, you know, state of the art, but if the person who has to operate it after the construction guys are gone doesn't know how, you will not, it won't be a failure. So that's a lot about what we do. Get really into kind of where you guys are at. Your Amenia Water District number 1, I'm probably telling you a bunch of things you already know. It was originally a private system that was taken over by the town along the way. According to the Department of Health, and these numbers, you always have to take them with a little grain of salt because some of this information could be dated or incorrect. The Department of Health thinks that there's about 1,000 people served through just under 300 service connections. From looking at the mapping of the system, that appears to be pretty reasonable. In 2023, the water system produced between 35,000 and 65,000 gallons of water a day, kind of depending on what was going on. You have licensed operators that run your water system. They run the filtration, the treatment system, and they run the distribution system. You have a contract operator, so it's an entity who provides that expertise to you, and you pay for that. That is really common in a lot of communities because there's a couple of reasons. One is those folks are hard to find. They're hard to find, and secondly, they're kind of pricey. So bringing one of these guys or two of these guys or gals on staff can be a challenge for many communities, so contract operations is not at all uncommon. We happen to know and work with your contract operator in many communities, have them in my phone, we talk frequently, so that's actually a good thing. That eases kind of our coordination. Your system I mentioned is 4 groundwater wells on 2 different sites. And right now, the water is treated with sodium hypochlorite, so think chlorine, just like if you were in a pool, you're treating that water to disinfect it to make sure that there's no microbials in there that can make you sick. Your sources, again, at the Laval Road site, you have 2 wells. They're 40 and 50 gallons per minute respectively. That's a pretty good, well yield. I did just get from when they were drilled, so they are pretty deep wells, which is good. But those wells are located very close to the water, and they're located in a wetland. And so generally, when we see a groundwater well, we want to make sure that that well is drawing water from underneath the ground, where the natural process of water percolating through the soil has cleaned it. If we think that there's an opportunity for surface water to, say, follow the shaft of the well column down and contaminate that drinking water, we want to check that out. So that's something we're going to be doing we're doing it right now in the very near future. The other sources you have are on Washington Court. You have 2 more wells. Those are lower producing wells, 24 and 28 gallons a minute. And you also have a 200,000 gallon storage tank out there. It's a standpipe. It's green. It kind of looks like your thumb sticking up out of the ground. The distribution system is about 17,000, 18,000 linear feet of pipe. That's pretty good size. That's a lot of pipe. It's a lot of different pipe materials because it was built over time, and it's a lot of different pipe sizes. And we care about material and we care about size because they can influence the velocity and the amount of water and the pressure that the water flows to the system. And they can also, some pipes are going to last in the ground a lot longer than others depending on material and also the manner in which they were constructed. There are 16 reduced pressure zones in the system. Water is metered, which is good, although like everybody, it's always a challenge to keep your water meters up to date. Your average water meter will be accurate for about 10 years, and then it starts being less accurate, and you have to do some replacements. The minimum regulatory standard for pressure is 20 pounds per square inch at the service connection, so at your house. It looks like there may be some areas in the community where pressures are lower, and that's something that would need to be addressed. So, and I'm almost finished, I promise. The immediate needs are to test the Laval Road wells for something called GWEDI, which, if you haven't figured it out, our industry is really big into acronyms, so I can make up entire sentences that are no words, just abbreviations for things. GWEDI is groundwater under the direct influence of a surface water. And again, why we care about this is if a groundwater well is truly drawing groundwater, then we shouldn't see any microbial contaminants in it. We may have minerals in it, so we may have, I mentioned iron, manganese, sulfur, those kinds of things, right? That's fine, those are naturally occurring, and we can deal with those, but what we don't want to see is we don't want to see any kind of microbial, so think E. coli or anything like that in a groundwater well. So right now we have, the board has agreed to a very small scope of work for us to work with your operator to create a plan to go and do some sampling and testing work at these wells. So some of it is done right on site. So some of it's things that you may remember from 6th grade chemistry, like pH, temperature, conductivity, those kinds of things, and we're comparing that to the nearby water body because they will track together if they are connected to each other. They may not have the same reading, but if we take a number of readings over time and one goes up, they will both go up, they will both go down. That tells us there's likely a hydraulic connection between them. And then we may do something called a microparticulate analysis, which is a laboratory test where we're very specifically looking for those signs of microbial contamination. So we have that work that we're doing right now. The stage of that work, we're coordinating. We've done to write one of those plans, you kind of have to have a bunch of background information. We've gathered the background information. We're putting together the sampling plan. Want to coordinate with your operator because your operator is actually going to be the one pulling those samples and doing those readings because they're here and it's the work that they do pretty much every day. So this is a very small addition for them. They already coordinate with your lab, so it's very efficient. So we'll be doing that work. We hope to submit to Department of Health with the holiday coming up either the week of Memorial Day or towards the end of that week or early the following week for Department of Health. It should be very easy for Dutchess County Department of Health to say, yes, we agree with your plan, go forth and do this. But getting their buy-in is really important. We have a letter from them saying, please test, but there's a lot of different ways to do this. We want to make sure that we're doing what they would like to see. Another immediate need you have, and I think you already are aware of this, and you've had some discussion about this, is New York State, again, is leading the charge with respect to lead service lines. So that's the pipe that goes from the main into your house. New York State is requiring, and the federal government is requiring, that you have an inventory completed by October of 2024, a couple of months from now. I know you're already working on that, so that's just an immediate need. Near-term needs, and I think the board's going to talk about this in a little bit, you do need a kind of more robust assessment of the entire system. There's a couple of other things. We know that the tank has maybe some rust on it, some things we should check out. We know there may be some issues in the distribution system with respect to hydraulics and some other things. We also know that the Laval Road well house is aged. It did not age gracefully, but it does need to be replaced. But the challenge will be if it's just being replaced to do what it does today, then you could more or less replace it with the same thing. But if we do some testing on this water and we discover that we need to treat for something else, we probably need a different sized building with different stuff in it. So we're kind of trying to line the things up. So what we don't want to do is fix something, spend money, even if it's not a lot of money, and then, a year from now, the Department of Health says, oh, by the way, you need to do something else, and now you got to rip that out and put in something new. So we're trying to get everything kind of sequenced. That assessment work will result in an engineering report. I know it's like gathering dust on a shelf someplace, but these engineering reports are really critical. They're needed for regulatory approvals. They're needed to go get grant money. And so we write our engineering reports so that they kind of act as many different things. They can also, you guys are a town, so we get to the point where money needs to be spent. There's a public process that the town board has to go through to notify the people who live in the district, hey, we're going to do something, it's going to cost money, and here's the story. So the engineering report does a lot of things. So it's an important document. And then eventually, you'll need to secure financing and actually do a capital improvement project, because we know there's some things that will need to be done. And I think that is everything I have, unless someone has questions.
No, but thank you very much for doing this, and again, apologies about the AV situation. We'll try to make sure that doesn't happen again. And just for those of you who maybe weren't here the last couple of times, we're trying to find a more efficient way to deal with problems in the wastewater system, which are numerous, but the previous water operator had a very complicated and expensive solution, including purchase of new land and drilling new wells and replacing the tank that only has a little bit of rust on it. So we need to do another engineer's report to come up with a sort of more efficient plan that we hope will cost the people in the water district significantly less money. And also, we never got from the previous engineer any kind of numbers for how that was going to impact rates in the water district. So that also will be part of this this report. So thank you very much. Oh, do you have a question?
Did you have a PowerPoint?
I did.
Could you possibly send it to us so we can review it?
Charlie
So
already
I
sent
can review it?
Charlie sent it to all of us before.
Yeah.
It's on your
Yes.
phone.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, everybody should, and we have it both in actual PowerPoint and a PDF, because I know sometimes
Thank
it
you.
doesn't work, but yes.
I have a question, a couple.
Did you now?
You mentioned 20 PSI minimum needed. Could you explain that a little bit more? I wasn't really following that. You got
Yeah.
16 pressure zones.
Yeah, so if you think about the way the water system is set up, you have, so water's deep in the ground, 200 feet in the ground, right, in the wells. It's really far down. So there's a pump that's bringing it up to the surface, and chlorine is being injected in it. That water is going to your standpipe, your tank, which is that thing that looks like a green thumb sticking up out of the ground. From the tank, inside the tank, you kind of have to picture that so the tank is steel on the outside, it's glass lined on the inside, and there's, there's the bottom of the tank, and then there's the water, and there's a bunch of headroom at the top of that. There's a bunch of air at the top of that. And the way the tank works is that the water fills it, that's been chlorinated, and it hangs around in there and gets all good chlorine contact time. And as the system, as users draw water off of it, the water level goes down. Because there's this balance between how much water goes in and how much water comes out. So perhaps in the morning, and I haven't looked at your specifics, but in the morning maybe everybody gets up and makes coffee and takes a shower. That's probably your peak demand of the day. That's usually for a residential system, unless you have some kind of industry out there. You're going to use the most water between, say, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning, because it's when everybody's home, all at the same time, pretty much. So you'll have this big demand. So the pumps go on, the water in the tank goes down. As that water goes down, so the water level gets closer to the ground, the pressure in the system gets less. So think about if I had a piece of plastic tubing and I put water in it and there was air at both sides. If I take the tubing and I hold my left hand straight and I bring my right hand down, the water's going to spill all over the ground. When I hit that level, right? Well, I'm going to have whatever water pressure I have. As the water level goes down, it's going to get less and less and less until it's nothing. That's what's happening here, right? So when you are close to the tank and you are close to the elevation at which that tank is operating, so it's going to go up and down within a range. If your house is literally really close to that, you're not going to have very much pressure at all, because we're using gravity, God said water goes downhill, to create pressure. When I see 16 pressure zones in 17 or 18,000 feet of pipe, what that means is that you're going to get to a point where, say you have the tank up here and somebody's house is down here, well, maybe that drop is really steep. And so the water at their house could be 100 pounds per square inch or 120 pounds per square inch. Well, that'll make your pipes rattle. I mean, that's a very unpleasant situation. You really would like it to be 40-ish pounds. So to address that, you put a valve in that reduces some of the pressure as you go along the way. Now the challenge is, as we go down the hill, so maybe pressure is 80 and I knock it down to 40 here, and then it builds up as it goes down the hill and I get back to 80 and I knock it down again and it goes back down the hill. We have to do an evaluation to figure out, okay, we got some people who have no pressure, we got some people who have way too much pressure. Is there a different way, rather than using all these valves, to get it so the pressure is better balanced, so that the people who have very low pressure have better pressure, and the people who have such high pressure, maybe we don't need quite so many of those valves in the system. So that's a hydraulic analysis. It's, the great thing, right? The US EPA has created software that is free and available to everyone to use. You don't need a fancy computer or anything. It's an Excel spreadsheet that if you have a map of your system and you know your pipe diameters and types more or less, and you know what your starting elevation is, you can figure this out and you can kind of do some analysis. So the Department of Health has mentioned that some hydraulic analysis needs to be done. 20 pounds per square inch is the regulatory standard, but that's the minimum. And if you live in a 2-story house and you have a 2nd-story bathroom and you have a big shower head, you probably get a trickle at 20 pounds per square inch at your service connection. You're at 40, you'll get some decent water coming out of there. So there's sort of this intersection between what's the regulatory requirement, right? The 20 pounds is designed so a water system is always under pressure to prevent any contaminants from coming into it. That's what the purpose of the 20 pounds is to make sure it's always under pressure. But it's not about me being in my shower on the 2nd floor and actually being able to shampoo my pile of hair that I have, which is hard to do. So that's what we would be looking at, and we would need to do some degree of that just to get a better understanding. The other thing you have to think about is 16 valves or whatever we just said. It's a lot of maintenance. That's a lot of big equipment to maintain and cost.
Thank you. The second question I had is that we're going to do additional testing of the well for different stuff. What is different stuff? In other words, the wells are tested, what, monthly?
The wells are, so you're on a schedule based on regulatory standards and the population served, and all of those tests are fine. Those tests have shown no problems, right? But when you go to do a test, when you go to a laboratory, you can test for a million different things. You have to say what you're testing for. So under the suite of sort of operational parameters, your wells are testing fine. But but you're testing finished water. You're testing the water after it's been chlorinated. So we're going to test the water before it's chlorinated to see if there's anything in there that we should be concerned about. So we're testing for, like I said, we're going to do, because you don't normally, not necessarily in a system, you don't necessarily do pH, you don't necessarily do temperature, you don't necessarily do conductivity. We sometimes do other tests, and this is what we have a chemist actually working on this to figure out what exactly we should be testing for. But that microparticulate analysis is something that's done in a well usually when you develop a well. So these wells were developed. Some of them were developed a really long time ago. So the oldest one, some of the oldest ones were abandoned, but some of the newer ones were developed in 2005. 2000. Those kinds. So they have not had this particular screening done in 20 years. So we're gonna do that again, and the reason is because the metric that's used for the clarity of water is turbidity, and the turbidity in these wells has been creeping up ever so slightly over time. That can be caused by many things. It could be that there's intrusion from the surface into groundwater. That's one potential. The other one is that if you think about how a well works, and your wells are, a couple of these are end in bedrock. So the well pipe goes down through a drill that ends in bedrock, and there's fissures in the bedrock, and the water travels through the fissures and goes into the well. That's what creates the water in the well for you to pull out. Over time, as it's called the cone of influence of a well, which actually looks like an upside down, like a V. Over time, as you pump that well, you can actually draw in some of the sand and sediment and things from the area around it, and that can cause your turbidity to creep up a little bit. The bottom of your well, you can think of it like a drinking straw, but it has a little screen in the bottom of it that kind of keeps big chunks out and protects the pump. That well screen, they sometimes over time just kind of get old and don't work very well. That can cause that type of turbidity to creep up a little bit. So there's a lot of different causes, and that's why the turbidity in and of itself is sort of a little bit of the canary in the coal mine. We just need to figure out what's going on. Is it something that we can treat for, physically, chemically? We just add, you already add a chemical, maybe we add a second chemical. Life is good, we all walk away. But if it's something where we feel like we, need to meet a regulatory standard, where we need to do additional treatment, that's the purpose of the testing.
And Mary Beth, I'm going to have to stop you because
Yes.
we have a very long agenda, so thank you for answering questions.
Thank you so much.
Don't mean to interrupt, somebody left their phone bench outside. I'll leave it here for whoever figures out it's first.
Okay, Michael Peak is going to give us some information on the Conservation Advisory Committee, which he chairs, and what?
Public speaking?
It comes after you don't have the agenda, it's posted outside. Public comment.
Comes after.
It comes after this.
Oh, it comes after. Oh, I see.
Yes, okay, Michael, take it away.
Hello, my name is Michael Peak. I serve as chair of the Conservation Advisory Council, or CAC, and as co-coordinator of the Climate Smart Task Force. The board asked me to speak tonight about each of these groups, who we are, what we do, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'll start with the Conservation Advisory Council. The CAC is appointed by the town board, consists of 7 members of the local community, along with the town board liaison, Nicole. Current members are myself, Mark Doyle, Vicki Doyle, Christy Gass, Sharon Kroger, Rhett Roback, and Nancy Schaefer. Enabling legislation for the CAC can be found in New York State General Municipal Law, Article 12F, as well as Chapter 9 of our local Town of Amenia Code. Per our name, we are an advisory council, not a board, that serves as a resource for both local government and town residents with regard to protecting and preserving the town's natural resources. I'm going to read one passage I found in the town code with regard to our purpose. It's a little bit wordy, but I think it kind of is a good statement of intent. The preservation and improvement of the quality of the natural and man-made environment within the town of Amenia in the face of population growth, urbanization, and technological change with their accompanying demands on natural resources, are found to be of increasing and vital importance to the health, welfare, and economic well-being of present and future inhabitants, and require forthright action by the governing body of the town of Amenia. It is recognized that the biological integrity of the natural environment on which man is dependent for survival, and the natural and functional beauty of our surroundings, which condition the quality of our life experience, cannot be protected without the full cooperation and participation of all the people of the town, working in partnership with local and state officials and with various public and private institutions, agencies, and organizations. The establishment of a Conservation Commission is a necessary step in fostering unified action on environmental problems. So that's kind of the root of where we're coming from with our work. Just one example of our work, in April of last year, Troutbeck's adaptive reuse plan was referred to the CAC by the Planning Board. We reviewed their application in detail, consisted of a lengthy narrative, I think some 600 pages, along with numerous maps and charts. We also conducted a site visit, and we submitted our response in a timely fashion. From what I understand, our comments were very well received. We made every effort to be fair and balanced, including both positives and negatives that we saw in the project. We continue to monitor that project and others, and we're happy to be a resource to the Planning Board moving forward. CAC is also responsible for maintaining a Natural Resources Inventory, or NRI, which is in need of an update. Dutchess County has just released their updated NRI, so the time may be right for us to do the same here in Amenia. We're also responsible for maintaining maps and charts showing natural resources and wildlife habitats, most of which can be found here at the Town Hall and perhaps even in this room. I see them all around me right now. I don't know if somebody did that on purpose. There's a particularly interesting one done by Hudsonia about the significant habitats in the town of Amenia, which is right next to me. We also have an educational component, a responsibility to inform and educate the community on environmental issues. And I personally just think it'd be nice if we could focus a little more energy on that. So again, hopefully we'll be able to get back to our roots a little bit more. I'm currently representing the CAC on the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, so we also have an important role in that process. Having said that about CAC, on to the Climate Smart Task Force. They're related. They used to be one and the same. So New York State created the Climate Smart Communities Program, CSC, to support local governments in leading their communities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, adapt to the effects of climate change, and thrive in a green economy. Program goals include building resilience, saving taxpayer dollars, increasing energy security and reliability, and improving community health. Benefits include grant-based funding, rebates, and technical assistance for related initiatives. In 2018, Amenia passed a resolution to become a climate-smart community. Following this, first requirement is to establish a climate-smart task force and to designate a coordinator. At the outset, Supervisor Perotti asked if the CAC would be willing to serve as the task force and if I would serve as coordinator. At the time, we welcomed the challenge and our work began. It became clear to us, however, that this would be a major undertaking, perhaps more than we could manage. Climate-smart activities began to dominate CAC agendas, leaving less time and energy for our traditional duties and responsibilities. We'd heard that other communities addressed this challenge by spinning off the task force and making it a separate entity, a subcommittee of sorts, and we decided to do the same. The town passed a resolution naming Stacy Mantle and me as co-coordinators of the new task force. To give credit where credit's due, Stacy is largely responsible for driving the group's achievements to date. And again, Nicole, thank you, provides support and oversight at the town board level. While several CAC members are also active on the task force, and particularly Vicki, Christy, Nancy, and Rhett, this group is intended to be less formal and more fluid, allowing volunteers from the community to get involved and lend a hand. They may be full-time residents, they may be weekenders, they may have interest or expertise in an area that the task force is now working, considering for the future, or maybe even would not have considered otherwise. At our recent Earth Day event, we had several new volunteers. Thank you, Anna, Ben, and Cheryl. If you're watching, we'll be in touch shortly. Climate Smart related achievements to date include LED streetlights in town, energy efficient heat pumps and lighting in the town hall, our recent Earth Day events, repair cafes in the town gymnasium, a community solar campaign, comprehensive energy audit of town hall, 2 clean energy community grants for $5,000 each, and an EV charging station grant that we've been awarded but is still in the early stages for about $90,000. So Climate Smart's been busy, and it's clear that spinning it off from CAC was a good thing. We're working right now toward bronze certification, which will push us into the next tier for future grant opportunities. We recently participated in Dutchess County's Climate Action Planning Institute in order to produce a greenhouse gas emissions report for municipal operations in the town of Amenia. Based on that report, we're putting the finishing touches on a climate action plan, again, just for municipal operations. We're on a tight timeline, but adoption of this plan before the end of June would push us across the finish line for bronze. I've already told Leo, and Nicole knows as well from last night's CAC meeting, we'll have the finished plan ready for you all shortly to take a look at, and I'm available to present the plan at your next meeting, which I understand is June 6th. And I will just thank you now in advance for your support on that. That kind of is my nutshell of CAC and Climate Smart, what the two are, how they're different. I'm happy to be a resource for you guys. I'm happy to answer questions now or later if you'd like. Otherwise, thank you for your time and attention tonight.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So how is it determined that anything is, from the planning board is sent to you for you guys to review? Is there clear-cut guidelines for that, or is it just kind of pick and choose?
You're talking about planning board stuff,
Well,
I'm
isn't it the
guessing?
planning board that sends like projects to you?
So we're basically, we are available as a resource to town government, to you guys, to the planning board. It's up to them to review or to refer something to us. So I would say there's no clear-cut mandate. It would be nice if there were. But it's kind of up to the planning board to say, hey, we'd like to hear from the CAC on this and refer it to us. We could chime in on, I suppose, anything if we inserted ourselves, but my experience is better to speak when you're asked to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Great.
very much.
Thanks, guys.
Moving on to
Open comments.
public comment.
Oh,
Yes. Oh, okay. Scared me. Yes, public comments? Yes, go right ahead.
No one else can. Sure? I'll be quick.
Thank you.
My name is Anna Vecchio, a resident of Amenia, Lake Amenia. This is just the second portion from last time I didn't have a chance to read. This is the second portion what I wanted to speak about last meeting. If Amenia is going to expand in job growth, we should create a small to mid-sized education training center assisting with training and education for job placement and advancement for careers for everyone, including those with low-income disabilities and people trying to enter the workforce. Needs to be a nearby education training center. Educate and train, help find jobs within the local area for those who are seeking employment. Partner with companies. They can tell you what types of positions are open. They can give you job description in advance for proper training, whether it may be 2 weeks prior, 1 to 2 months prior, and try to fit their needs by training people, those in need with disabilities as well. This will prepare them in advance a good percentage, even if it's 50% or more ratio, then the company can give a brief training. This will create retention for companies. Employees will be prepared to fill some of the positions with partnering companies for the surrounding area and create job growth and stability for those who are employed. An education training center to fit the needs of Amenia if it is going to have job growth. Some examples are landscape farming, computer jobs, janitor, any type of position, etc. Train and fill the demand, including people with disabilities as well, as I said twice. It's just important to me. You can coordinate with volunteers to educate as well. This will create jobs as well as having an education training center. You can use this center to train, I already said that, to expand. This will create revenue and jobs for the town as well if you choose to have it just for Amenia or for the surrounding area. And As far as for the cannabis that's on the agenda for this evening, again, I do not agree having this in the town. That's my opinion, since there are many ways to bring revenue. As I stated in the past, it is not necessary for Amenia. It should be a place where families can gather, enjoy their day for a few hours, residents and tourists from the surrounding area as well, a family-friendly town. I only see a master plan for Wassaic recreation area, not Amenia downtown revitalization or of Lake Amenia, the historic lake on Lake Amenia Road. You can create recreation activities in this area on Lake Amenia Road, many outdoor activities including fishing, kayaking, beach area, doggy park, and a clubhouse for activities and parties. If you'd like, you can even create four-wheeling trails for scenic rides. Ones maybe for utility area for them for other use. We already have a rail trail, which is a great asset as well. We can think of other country type of activities as well. These are just some examples for recreation in the Amenia area on this end. Also shopping, cafes, and other types of things. You can create restaurants downtown, which I've spoken about in the past on a few occasions. You need to have activities all year round, not just in the spring and summer, that will bring revenue. I will speak about this at another meeting because I know I'm only allotted 3 minutes. So.
Which you're actually past the end of.
Sorry.
So thank you. No, by moments. That was very well timed. Yes, Jim.
Oh, good evening, board members. I'm here to address the traffic condition on Sheffield, Prospect, and the Powder House corridors. I live on Prospect Avenue, and I've been observing excessive speed coming across Prospect Avenue. There's a very dangerous curve there that's on a rise in front of the Jasmine, Dietrich, and Sedaris homes. It's a limited site. My other concern is that it's a bus route, school bus route, and the buses are stopping in 3 different places. And many times I've even seen a vehicle pass a bus that was stopped. I didn't get the license plate, or else I would have reported it. So it's a blind curve coming across, and coming out of my driveway, I might have about 100 feet. And there is a bus stop right there. It's also a farm road there that goes into the Bailey's farm. People gather their children there. So I'm thinking what's happening is that people try to avoid going through town. It's a shortcut. So they're coming from 343 to 22 or 22 to 343. And many times I'm concerned that someone's going to get hurt or killed by the traffic that's coming through. I've even noticed some truck vehicles coming through. And it's a very narrow road. It's a town road, and that's why I am concerned about it. And I'm just wondering if there's something that can be done to lower the speed limit, number one, because I understand the speed limit now is 30 miles per hour. If we can bring it down to even 20 miles per hour, it might be helpful. And I'm wondering if a monitor could be put in place for a period of time to actually record what kind of traffic, the number of vehicles that are coming through, and the speed at which they're coming through that particular area. So I am concerned about the health and safety of people. And I'm thinking that a lot of the traffic's being directed by the GPS system. So that's my thought, and that's my concern. Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
I think we could ask the town highway department to investigate if we could put speed bumps along in the road. I see that on a lot of towns. Slows traffic down.
I'll talk to them about
that. Would be great,
that
especially in that one area. I don't know if you know the particular turn I'm talking about, but there is very, very limited site there. So,
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Anyone else? Sandra? Oh, wait, Vicki, I think, had her hand up first.
Good evening. I just wanted to mention that Memorial Day ceremony will be happening, as it has every year, at the Fountain Square, which is now, it's in front of Bank of Millbrook, on Monday, the 27th, at 11 o'clock. And I know the veterans would appreciate people coming out to honor the veterans, and I look forward to seeing you there. I wanted to thank also the CAC and everybody who helped with Cleanup Day. It was an amazing success. We got a whole utility trailer full of litter and rubbish, and it was taken free of charge at the transfer station, and thanks to Welsh Sanitation for doing that year after year. They're very happy. Every year they say, we're so happy to be a part of this. So even though when I come in at 1:45 and they're all ready to go and the dumpsters are full, they're like, go straight on in and unload all your stuff. So they've been very, very kind to us. And thanks to all the volunteers, particularly the CAC and the Enhancement Committee, for spearheading the two sections of town that we focus on every year for Cleanup Day. It's Wassaic, CAC kind of focuses there, and the Enhancement Committee takes on Fountain Square. They're also this Saturday, if you happen to see them out there working at Fountain Square getting ready for Memorial Day ceremony, they'll be planting the annuals. And I think it's really important that we thank those people for doing that work all through the summer to keep the town centers looking good and attractive. Thank you.
Vicki, I have a quick question for you. This is concerning another matter, but was Veterans Square ever designated as like an official town park?
The way that came about is that the intersection in 1991 was realigned, and the state DOT made considerable changes and improvements. And at that time, Darlene Reamer, as an architect, thought it was a good opportunity, and the DOT welcomed our input as to create more of a amenities, pedestrian-friendly gathering place, and a war memorial was installed. That work was done by the DOT, but the onus is on the town of Amenia to maintain it. So even though we don't own that property, that is all DOT right-of-way. The improvements that were made, it was very clear at the time, is that those are our responsibility. They were happy to install it, but time has gone by. Brickwork has gotten broken and disheveled, and names faded from the donor bricks, and the electrical system is a little unreliable. All of those responsibilities are ours. That's my understanding, and you can talk to the DOT more about that. They have the complicated maps and everything that they did when they originally put it all in. And really, we have to thank Darlene Reamer for all those beautiful historic lights and the aesthetics that she created there for the War Memorial.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sandra.
Good evening, Sandro La Rosa, 15 Spruce Hill in Amenia. Last time, I had some comment about the proposed zoning change you have under consideration. And, I made reference to the existing town code. I made a list of reference after like a philological analysis of the current town code. But basically, all started from the definition of suburban residential. The purpose of this district is to maintain the character of resisting suburban density residential developments and to allow a limited extension of suburban growth pattern. I had the pleasure last Tuesday to attend the comprehensive plan committee with Vicky, Ken, Michael, So I went to read in detail the 2007 comprehensive plan. And I found very interesting basis highlighting the objective of maintaining the character of Armenia, especially with regard of, the beauty of the agricultural and natural resources. So if you allow me, I just have a few of these reference for your consideration. At page 19 of the 2007 comprehensive plan, the town wants to preserve and enhance the scenic and historical character of the Route 22 corridor, maintaining and enhancing the visual quality of rural stretches of road and of hamlet gateways. At page 29, the town should continue to support private and public effort to protect open space resources, which contributes greatly to its character. By the way, I searched for character, I found 35 times, it's mentioned. One is the index, so forget the, there are 34 references to the beautiful character of Armenia. Page 34, take advantage of the town's scenic and rural character to attract second home owners and tourist business. Page 37, the long-term consequences would ultimately destroy, this is with regard of, if you build, the rural and hamlet character and diversity. Page 46, with regard of, subdivision of land, conventional subdivision of land, is focused on providing a maximum number of lots with a parcel with little meaningful open space and no significant protection of natural resources. The resulting patterns of development has contributed to the sprawl patterns community in which large pieces of open land lose their character. So
that's 3, so just finish that thought. 3 minutes. So
yeah.
Finish that thought.
Just 2 more references. Protection of scenic resources is another reason for preserving open space. Scenic vistas and roads contribute to a community character and give aesthetic enjoyment to visitors. The factor that, page 68, the factor that most shapes Armenia character is the natural environment and scenic beauty and biodiversity that it supports. Page 75, the forest and agricultural land, abundant wildlife define the rural character of the town. The slow pace of development and the decrease of agriculture have created ideal conditions for the growth of wildlife. However, increasing development. Last sentence, page 47, just construction of multifamily units is effectively limited by the requirement for public sewer because of project that multifamily density can only be developed with sewer or in limited case on a common septic system. Careful attention must be paid to their siting. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? George?
Hello, my name is George Bestranson. I live at 3498 Route 343 in Amenia. I oppose changing the zoning of the suburban residential areas to allow multifamily dwellings. What will the effect of this zoning change be? It will increase the ability of developers to profit from building on cheap or relatively cheap agricultural land and open space. If you want the remaining open space in suburban residential areas to be built up, then you would support this zoning change. If, like me and many residents of Amenia, you want to preserve the remaining open space we have left, then you should oppose this change. Lewis Mumford said, almost 2 centuries from now, one hopes there will still be fields and woods where there are now fields and woods. I commend the board, the town board, for wanting affordable housing in Amenia. But the lack of suitable housing is a national problem. When looked at regionally, most of Amenia is not a place for solving the crisis. Regionally, Amenia is where one, in solitude, can go and find woods, fields, and farms. With its easy access by train and bike, Amenia is perhaps uniquely a place where millions from the New York City area can get deep into nature without having a car. This feature of our town is priceless and of immense value to the greater New York City region. And living close to nature is a great joy to many of us who live here permanently. Protecting this asset should be our first priority. I did say most of Amenia is not the place for solving the affordable housing crisis. because the Taconic Development Disability School campus is widely recognized as the right place to put affordable housing. Most of this property is still owned by the state. I was amazed when the governor told local communities to change their zoning laws and destroy their rural character and take oaths or or not get funding. And yet the state doesn't fund developing a site that they own themselves, a site that everybody else wants developed. I would like the town board to explore and to facilitate the development of affordable housing at the Taconic Developmental Disability School campus, and at the same time preserve the rural character of the rest of our town. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Next. And introduce yourself at the microphone.
My name is Justin Johnson. I live at 3971 Route 22. I just had some public comments on the cannabis dispensary in Amenia and the likelihood of bringing that here. First and foremost, I've been in the legal cannabis industry for about 5 years now, about as long as I've lived in the town. I can understand why certain people are skeptic or why they might not want it here. A big part of that is public safety or perception of the plant. I think that there's 3 main reasons why we really should consider it. First and foremost, it does create jobs right here in Amenia. We have open real estate, and I think if you look at pretty much any community that a dispensary has entered, they become a just an important part of that community. It's very important for them to be perceived properly, and part of that is they're a highly regulated industry. So I think it's going to create great jobs. It's going to increase tax revenue that I believe will otherwise go to another town, Millerton, some of these other cities. If there is not safe access to medicine or recreational cannabis here in Amenia, people will go elsewhere, and that money will go with them. And lastly, I think it really comes down to public safety. A lot of people, I think, are rightfully concerned about kids getting their hands on cannabis and that kind of thing. And the reality is, if you look at any of the statistics from any state that has legalized cannabis, the longer cannabis has been legal in that state, the lower the likelihood is of kids to be consuming cannabis. And part of that is you take the power out of the legacy dealers' hands, people who are selling cannabis to anybody illegally, and you put it into a regulated store that will only sell to 21 and plus. So the access to cannabis to children actually decreases, and it increases the safety. Additionally, if you like to partake as an adult, you are getting product that is likely to not have mold or other detrimental kind of fungi that could exist in something that you're getting in a bag from a guy somewhere down the street. So I really think it is good for the economic health of the community as well as the public health of the people that are consuming it, and it does keep our kids safer by having access to it. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry.
Anyone else?
Caroline Green. I'm short, sorry. Media, or Bed Road. I wasn't planning on saying anything this evening, but I was a little confused about the zoning change. I am, like many people, just concerned about 30 years from now as development happens and our Rs turn into SRs, and SRs then equal apartment buildings. I actually was caught in a traffic jam in front of, I think it's called Eastdale in Pleasant Valley last week. It took 30 minutes to get through that one light. This was not in the town, it was past the town before you hit Adams. I support affordable housing. I am just a little concerned because and maybe Charlie can speak about this, I actually thought it was a bit of a done deal, the Cascade Road was gonna be, and then we're moving this in order to make this happen, but it didn't quite sound like it was a full done deal, so I don't want to sacrifice 30 years from now, 10 years from now, for apartment buildings all around for something that might not actually happen. So I just kind of popped in my head, is there any way to limit it to areas that are currently SR and not future SR when you make the zoning change. That was my main comments.
Okay, anyone else? I don't want to say good, but we have a lot to do still. Okay, supervisor's report is first. I'll try to stand for you and check that call. Senior swim, we're still working on an agreement with Maplebrook for the use of the pool, but I hope that will happen fairly soon when our lawyer gets back. Emergency planning, the Dutchess County Regional, there was a Dutchess County Regional meeting today here about negotiating a contract with EMS. We have a 5-year contract that's expiring, and the Dutchess County Office of Emergency Services was here to offer their help in allowing Amenia, Millerton, and Dover to come up with a contract that we can afford. And Sue Serino actually attended herself. The highway garage, we received John Andrews' final request for proposal for an engineer and architectural firm to draw up the project and supervise construction. We'll presumably vote next time to send it out because there were still a few kinks to be worked out, but we'll have it before the next meeting. The water district, we talked about some tonight, and the first is that the testing of our wells for groundwater contamination as required by Dutchess County DOH has to happen, and so we've broken that off into a separate project because that was required in order for us to keep operating our water system. The gymnasium floor, Tracy Saladay, who is, thank you, here again tonight, has completed a formal request for proposals for this project, which we approved at the last meeting, and we're waiting to get a response from vendors. Town Hall interior, you may not be able to tell from looking at it, but now this room is not only the town board room, but the planning board room and the zoning board room, since the 3 rooms were used a total of 5 nights. I'm sorry, the 2 rooms were used a total of 5 nights a month, and we're hoping that the upstairs space can be used for some other use, one of which might be the Northeast Community Center satellite office. There's a meeting next week with Mike and with the board chairs to get input on the room layout and the desired video equipment so that hopefully we won't have another problem like we just had tonight. And also the staff and committee room on the 2nd floor was completed yesterday. And as soon as the coffee pot gets a long enough extension cord, that will be in use. The Northeast Community Center, we're discussing agreements with them for their satellite office and a potential Amenia farmers market. They did a proposal for that, and there are probably some funds the town would have to come up with, so we'll have to talk about that as a board in the not too distant future. The building inspector, I attended town court to see an arraignment of the owners of 4 properties with junk car and debris in their yard for many years. This keeps sort of slipping out of regulation. Negotiations for removal began with the attorney. I also met with Mike Sigelkin and the owner of the Morning Sun Gravel Mine, which is just north of the Wassaic Hamlet. They have documentation to operate, but we discussed with them noise mitigation for the residents along Old Route 22. Housing, as Charlie said, we met with the owner of the former ARC 38 property, HRH and the Dutchess Land Conservancy about a conservation easement for most of the acreage up the mountain and possibly sectioning off the lower 5 acres for workforce housing. And there will be a subsequent meeting, as Charlie mentioned, about another property they're interested in. Downtown improvements, no news on what happened to Tarts and Breads on Main Street. Even after all this time, it's a great mystery, so if it ever gets solved, you'll be the first to know. And events, just as Michael mentioned, the The CAC and the Climate Smart Community Task Force arranged a repair cafe, which had a big crowd, and I was very bummed out that I couldn't be there. Weebatuck Community Day was also that Saturday, and also the Highway Department held an open house at their existing garage in Wassaic to show the deplorable condition. There were people visiting, probably not as many as might have been, but no one can complain they haven't seen how horrible it is. Okay, town clerk report.
Hi, I'm doing the town clerk report for Dawn. My name's Erica Howard, I'm her deputy. She is celebrating I'd like to congratulate Carly Klingner on her graduation from University of Tennessee. So I'll start with Dawn provided minutes, the May 2nd minutes, 2024 for acceptance. Someone make that motion?
I would so move. I had
Okay.
one little question
I'll
or
second
one
it.
little issue, but I guess I do it after the seconding anyway. Sorry. After Sandra La Rosa was mentioned, there was the word consist, and I think it was meant to be consistent, or there's a missing N to that word.
Okay. Don't check that out. Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
Council members Rebellard,
Yes.
Councilmember Ham,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Winters,
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern.
Yes.
Also, we are in receipt of resignations from Justin Romo, the town constable, and Diane Rivera from the housing board.
I'll suggest that we accept those with regret.
Yes, with regret.
Was that a second, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebellard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern.
Yes.
And also, I have payments of claims, the May abstract in the amount of $190,587.38, and is in the breakdown as follows. General Fund A, $152,190.67. Highway Fund, $9,758.48. Amenia Lighting, $1,105.75. Wassaic Lighting, $409.78. Amenia Water, $27,122.70, for a total of $190,587.38. Need somebody to make a motion?
I'll motion.
Good for you.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebellard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
And Councilmember Ahern.
Yes.
And that's all she has for tonight.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if we have a building department report. I don't see anyone from the building department, so.
You missed
Well,
one.
there was
You
one
skipped the
sent.
water.
What?
You skipped the water. There was a water meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I just made a note. I mean, I just had highlighted that too, so I thought I was past it.
This is the building report.
Okay. So the building report was sent to us, but the water district report, is there someone from the water district who's going to speak to that? Okay, go right ahead.
Jim Walsh again. We discussed the possibilities of rates. We would like to invite Mrs. Nowak to our next meeting to give us some data and more input. Other than that, it wasn't very productive, other than it was a very short meeting. So I guess we're going to wait for more data. to take
Okay,
a
and it
look
looks
at
like we're
things.
about to get some.
Yes.
Thank you.
They did speak about the meters. Some meters have been changed and fixed. Some meters are still outdated. And that, again, will be, being looked at.
That is correct, yeah. Very good, yeah.
Okay. Building department report, I will read you what Mike Sigelkin sent us. In summary, these are the receipts as follows. Please see the attached for details. Municipal searches residential, there were 3 for a total of $660. Municipal search commercial, there was 1 at $300. Fire inspection 5 for $450. Building permits 33 for $12,659. And total department income for April was $14,069. Thank you. So that was the building department report. Highway department report, I don't see Megan, so I'm assuming that we're not going to have one tonight. Recreation Commission report, I bet that's Katie.
She's been dying to get up there so she can go home.
No doubt.
Why is this so close? Jeez, okay.
What? Okay.
Sorry. So, a couple things tonight. So summer camp, registration is still in full swing. We changed the hours, so instead of 9 to 3, it is now 8 a.m. to 3, Monday through Friday, and that's July 1st to August 9th. NECC will be doing breakfast and lunch, so they'll be bringing breakfast and lunches here to the building for that. Registration is available on our website. We also have in-person packets here at Town Hall, and there's packets available at the library as well if you're at the library and you see them. Senior trips. So we are going on the steam train July 15th. We're going to the Playhouse on August 1st. Mohegan Sun, which is the casino, on September 12th. The senior picnic is July 27th, which is a Saturday, and that will be at Wassaic Firehouse. And then we're still doing the senior socials, which are the first Wednesday of each month at 2 p.m. here at Town Hall. I don't know if anyone's been at the park recently, but all the bleachers are completely done, all the brand new bleachers. There is one more old one that just needs to be taken down, but other than that, all the new ones are up and they are looking really good. A big shout out to the maintenance staff for that, and also their dad, Rich Howard, was there helping, volunteering his time, so big shout out to them. We will be doing a paint snake, so we're going to try to make a gigantic snake where you paint the rocks and we're going to wrap it around Town Hall. So we're working with the library on that as like a community engagement, and that will be throughout the summer. So our first painting event will be June 12th at 5 p.m. at the library. It is BYOR, bring your own rock, but I'll be out trying to collect some cool rocks, so if you see me, don't mind me, I'll just be getting rocks. And then I'm going to start our next mailer soon, so if anyone has anything on that, that's going to go out for July, but I'll start working on that in June, so if anyone has information, start sending that my way so I can collect it. And to touch upon Maplebrook, I'm meeting with them actually on Tuesday, since you wanted to move that over to recreation. I went upon myself and reached out to them to schedule a meeting and figure out the rest of the details on how that would look fee-wise, and how much it would cost, and then kind of work that out in that term, because those kind of weren't answered questions yet. And then the music series starts July 8th, Monday.
Yeah, July 8th.
Yeah, 6 to 8. Next thing is we got a generous donation from AWCO, a total of $75,000 to go to our construction plans for the master plan that we were doing for recreation. The construction plans, I think, totaled to about $90,000, but we would need to transfer about $25,000 from our cell tower fund, so we were asking for permission to do that, to move it into our equipment line to cover the extra cost.
Okay.
I don't know, is that something, we were also just trying to figure out with the lawyer, but Ian's not here, how that donation would look and how that would be accepted. I know the Recreation Commission can accept donations, but I don't know if it's over a certain amount or things like that. So we need clarification on that.
It's not a certain amount, from what I remember when we set it up, but the town board does have, you guys have to accept it first, and then the town board has to accept it.
We have to accept it?
Yes.
Got it.
And Ian will be back on Monday, so we can get an answer to that.
Okay.
Just to give the public an idea, this is something that we started on 2 years ago, creating a master plan with multiple phases of improving recreation around here. So we were trying to do this with the least amount of taxpayer dollars as possible. So back in December, AWCO showed up at a recreation meeting and volunteered to start doing fundraising within the community, because we do have quite a few wealthy residents in the area. So with the movement of the money, this will be about $35,000 of taxpayer money on $1 million project.
Well, the cell tower fund is not taxpayer money. Isn't the cell tower fund?
Well, it is taxpayer money. We could use it for something else if it wasn't going to recreation.
Yes, but it's not. Yes, I understand what you're saying. But. And the next thing is, I paid the bill for the repair on the septic, the $1,500 bill. I would like clarification on what recreation is covering on town property, what we're not covering. In the past, tree cutting was covered out of the town's budget, and the septic being pumped last year was covered as well under the town budget. So I would just need some clarification on what we are paying and what we aren't paying.
Okay, I'll ask Ian to figure that out as well when he comes back.
And then also money to cover the engineer for the septic. So we are working on a construction rebuild plan. We have Tracy working very hard to put together a nice concession stand, but we are kind of running into problems after problems. So the septic is not up to code. I wouldn't say it's not up to code, but there's no documentation that there is a septic at Beekman Park whatsoever. So to move forward with the Department of Health and go through all that process, we would need documentation. So I would, again, need clarification on who is paying that. That's about a $5,000 bill. So is that falling under recreation or the town, because it's town property that they don't have a septic documented?
Okay, I will try to get an answer for you. And you.
Yes.
That's it.
Katie, I had a question. You saw my note about the lighting in the gym?
Yes, those two backlights, I think they're broken and there's something wrong with them because they are constantly going out. So we have to rent what are those things called, Paul?
Lift.
A lift.
A lift, thank you.
Oh, a man lift?
Yeah, because
It's a man lift.
I don't think we have a ladder tall enough to constantly change them, and I think the rental is expensive from what John has said, so I will have to double check on that.
Thank you.
Katie, I had something for you.
Yeah.
Last night at the CAC meeting, Vicki mentioned there's split rail fence down at the Wasaig Park entrance that needs attention.
Split? Where? At the entrance?
Yeah, by the right at the entrance to the Wasaig Park, where the billboard is, right where the kiosk thing is.
Right after you cross the bridge.
Yeah.
On Furnace Bank Road and Main Street, that intersection, and you see you cross over, by the post office. Alongside the railroad tracks is a path that leads you to Wasaig Park. And on the Pauling Court side, there's a beautiful split rail fence, but often the split rail fence, some of the posts need to be resupported, and some of the
The split rail, yeah, that goes
are
across.
broken or out of their thing. So almost as many as are up are actually down.
Is that our property or Pauling Court?
That is the right-of-way to
our park, so I would think.
our park.
Yeah.
We maintain it.
Would that be town highway or recreation?
Recreation.
Recreation has done that in the past. It just has to periodically be looked at because it does happen.
Got it. Cool. Also, the mulch is coming down. New mulches everywhere. So just so you know, that's happening too.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other board or committee reports? Were you about to speak, Rosanna? Oh, I thought you were looking, I thought you had notes for that. Okay, never mind.
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. So now I'd like to move to the discussion items. Last time, we listed a number of topics and asked 10 board members to sort of write or outline each of these and make a recommendation. And the first one is term limits. Paul, you want to just talk about
I'm on the
that?
stage now. All right, so when I ran for office last year, I proposed the idea of having term limits because our first president he did 8 years, he stepped away. So I think it would be good for this town to explore having either 12 or 16-year term limits. That gives anybody that runs for office enough time to get their stuff done. So I've been trying to reach out to the community to find out what they would like to do. I got an email from Gabe Parise, no term limits, 4 years for the supervisor position. Josh Frankel, 12-year term limits, 4-year for the supervisor. Christy Gass, no term limits, 4-year for the supervisor. Sandro La Rosa, La Rosa, 8 years, no, 12, I'm sorry, 12 years for term limits, 4 years for the superintendent, and Bob Mead, 16 years for term limits and 4 years for the supervisor. I would ask that we put this on the ballot to be voted on by the community in November. The law says that the town board can make this decision on their own. We could just impose these term limits and change things up according to the law that I found and I shared with the town board. But I think it's important that the entire community gets an opportunity to speak on this.
I got some comments as well from people, okay? One of the things that came to me from several people, I didn't write their names down, but was the fact that they felt it was kind of insulting that the voters aren't allowed to vote on people they want to choose. That by the very process of voting, they're making a choice. So if you're somebody, for example, who's brilliant and he can't run anymore and you have nobody else to run, that was a concern of them. The other concern was that if someone knows they're on their last term and they have no chance of running again, there may be a negative attitude towards that person as far as, what they get done. They might be like a lame duck kind of person. And then the other thing is, one of the reasons that some of the people have been on the board or as a superintendent for so many years is nobody ran against them.
So that's what we're trying to change, right? One of the reasons I really pushed hard for appointing Ms. Nicole Ahern is to show the community that a young person, 35 years old, a mother of five or six kids, almost a baseball team. She drives a school bus for the town. She's taken the time to come and be involved with the school board. So I'm trying to show the community that young people can get involved, right? It's not always retired people. The 20 years that I've been here, it always seemed like it was a retired person that was up here.
But, well, for maybe a superintendent, not necessarily for a town board member. And number one, nobody is saying that somebody that's young can't run for the town board. So you're saying that they won't run? So
no, I just think that nobody ever saw it happening before, so.
Well, that doesn't mean it won't happen.
Well.
So, and the other thing is, you have somebody that is a young mother of 35 or 36 years old, and she puts in 12 years, and she's majorly changed the town, and you're saying...
That's my problem, and that's why I feel like it should go to voting for the term limits, because I am young. In 12 years, I have a lot of time to still give, and if I want to do it, you're cutting me at only 12 years. I agree with the supervisor terms. I think it should be 4.
I'm glad I'm getting out now.
But yeah, term limits, I think it should go to a vote to the town.
To the voters, to the
Yeah.
town.
Agreed.
Did you want to say something, Brian?
No, I agree with putting it up for a referendum vote. Yeah.
I mean, I think we have to be conscious of what we're talking about putting up for a vote and what we're not. I mean, we're not suggesting that cannabis go up for a vote, for instance.
No, but
so what?
Setting term limits is important, that's a big thing, that's a big change. I think that the entire town should vote on this, not just the 5 of us.
Agreed.
I think we ought to get more input than 3 or 4 people that...
No, I think we should have a public hearing.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. I'm not, I feel like we're elected here to do a job and represent the people that elected us.
I completely agree.
I don't want to, I mean, I think if we're going to put stuff on the ballot, it should be stuff that either involves spending money, although there can be a referendum for that anyway if people were concerned. Well, actually, that's required. I just think we should, if we're going to put things on the ballot, we should think about reasons to do it or not do it for each item. I mean, I'd much prefer that we kind of take the ownership after a public hearing, but again, that's just my suggestion. So was that it for term limits? Any other thoughts on that?
No, just so I understand what you're saying, though, you want to have a public hearing and then us determine what it's going to be?
Well, that would be my suggestion. That's
Okay.
usually the way this stuff works. I mean, I'm not a big believer in term limits, again, because I think it just, like, people get to vote every 2 years or 4 years, like.
Right, and if
you
you're
know,
not
it's-
happy, you vote them out.
Right. I mean,
Which they did.
you would think based on Congress and the presidency that, but I think it's very different when one has, an enormous amount of money behind you when you get to a certain point in your political career. I think at the town board level, it really doesn't. And I think that Victoria, for instance, didn't have anyone running against her for
Multiple times.
Yeah, multiple times. So, I'm more concerned about like actually getting people interested in it and volunteering than I think it's a problem of people staying on too long. I mean, I do think it should turn over, but I don't think that should be mandated. I think people should just make that decision in the voting booth. But if the next step is a public hearing before, I think that's not a bad idea. Okay. I'm sure Dawn wants to know that too. Erica.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Paul, cannabis.
All right, so we kind of discussed amongst the town board here what regulations would look like. It would be 500 feet from any school, 300 feet from any public library, and 200 feet from any place of worship or public park. As this gentleman spoke to before, we have a community of people that smoke marijuana. Local resident over on Old Route 22 was approved by the state of New York this week for a license to open up a farm. So he has a choice. He can either sell his local product in this town and we can get the tax revenue, or he can open up a store over in Pine Plains and sell it there, and the town of Pine Plains will get the tax revenue. So it's here. We need to deal with it. I think we've come up with a pretty good plan to make sure it's not on Main Street and it's away from the public as much as possible. So I would like for us to hire whoever we need to hire to write this resolution and move forward to get these regulations in place, and then afterwards have a vote for an opt-in.
Okay.
Didn't you say that Ian knew of a planner?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
So Ian had said that he found somebody that would do it for like $5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, he
I
told
thought
you,
that was me
Ashley.
that said that. Okay, I'm sorry.
He told you this, Ashley is her name, I believe.
Oh, Ashley.
Yes.
I think actually I spoke to Ashley.
Yeah.
And she said that, but that didn't include some of the pieces of the, like the secret. It wasn't the secret. It was the secret, that has to be part of it.
The regulations that we want to,
So that made it more expensive. I think she was up to more like 12,000
okay.
at the end of that process. So I'll get an updated price from her.
So can we vote as a town board to move forward on the regulation process, or what are we doing?
Well, under motions, any of the above, where there's a board consensus, we can make a motion in the next part.
Okay.
So what are we making a motion on, though?
To create regulations before we move on to voting to opt-in.
Follow that? Do you follow that?
You'll need a resolution to approve, to appropriate the funds. That'll be your next thing.
Right, in order to hire someone, we're going to need a resolution, but we can certainly make a motion to move it ahead.
So we need to make a motion that we're going to investigate what we need in order to.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've already investigated all this a lot.
Well, I don't mean investigate whether we're going to do it or
We
not.
need
I
the
mean investigate the plan.
No.
We need to hire somebody to write
The
the
regulations.
official
Right,
regulations,
but
local law.
but we need a resolution to hire the planner. So we need to get definite, and we need to get definite prices before that happens, because some of the others, I mean, the numbers we
So we want to
got.
make a motion on getting a resolution to hire
I just want to make a resolution that we can stop discussing it all the time and just kind of move forward with it.
Okay, well, we can ask Ian to draft a resolution for our next board meeting.
Right. Cool.
Okay,
To hire a planner.
to hire a planner, and we need to know what the cost of that is.
That's what I was just trying to figure out, what
Thank you.
exactly you were.
Okay, procurement policy.
Procurement policy. So Charlie and I sat down on Friday and we looked at the original procurement policy that was sent out a couple weeks ago, and we kind of tweaked it, cut out some of the extra verbiage, I believe in short and sweet, and also some of the thresholds were changed. We also looked at some of the other procurement policies, and we added the green.
I'm sorry, added what?
The green.
The green stuff, yeah.
We added the verification of receipt of goods and services, and we added the, I'm trying to find it here, green purchasing. We felt that was important, and I think that's about it.
Did people have a chance to read that? Did people, I mean, should I ask Ian to do a resolution?
I think
to
so.
approve that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I think the last time it was done was 30 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, sadly. Okay, the scope for the Comprehensive Plan Committee, I mean, I sent that out the last time, but I mean, basically that was for the Comprehensive Plan Committee to focus on updating the comprehensive plan in terms of things that were factually wrong, and then to ask them to also make a list of things beyond what's factually wrong that need to be looked at, and then decide whether discuss whether they want to continue as a committee or whether they want to do a different process for that. But the first thing is that their original charge was to update just stuff that was wrong, like the fact that Silo wasn't built yet. So that was my suggestion, and I guess we haven't really discussed whether there's any other ideas for directing them. Any ideas?
No, I don't have any ideas. I think the last time it was updated was, what, 25 years ago?
2007.
2007. I really like the plan that they came up with. I talked to some people that were involved in it. They spent a lot of time. It's a very time-consuming process. I mean, I don't want to create a whole new plan for the community. Yeah, I think it should just stay limited as much as possible. Just update things.
As a member of the committee, we tell you where we are.
Okay, you have to go to the microphone there to do that.
Good evening. It's Ken Topolsky. I'm a member of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. And what we're doing is it is a masterful plan. It took 5 years. It involved most of the stakeholders of the town of Amenia. And it was thorough, comprehensive. It reviewed state legislation, county legislation. It is heavy on statistics. And because of that, statistics changed since 2007, how many farms we have or what the roads situation are. What we are starting with is we've stripped out all the numbers and statistics and we've sent that to the county to update, so that when you see the 2024 plan, it will have accurate numbers. We are also sending to each of the various boards and committees in the town the sections that are pertinent to them, and asking them, as Leo just said, to update the plan and reflect what changes have been made since 2007. The committee is rewriting some of the aspirational language, the introduction, for instance, or what is the purpose of a comprehensive plan? Why is it required? So we're changing the verbiage there because a lot of the introduction section went into the history of the 2007 plan, and that was, as I mentioned, extensive. And the last thing we're doing is we're asking all of the committees, we're asking them to tell us what they've accomplished in the 2007 plan and what they've yet to realize. That'll be included in the new plan. And we're asking them to provide us a list of what they feel the plan needs to include going forward, a list of recommendations.
That's great. I mean, my personal feeling is that the 2007 plan was very forward-thinking, especially at that time. I know the person who was the chief planner in Dutchess County then, and I think he had a lot to do with it. There was some great stuff about limiting farmland development and how agricultural lands, stuff should be cited on agricultural lands. And it would be really great to look at all the stuff you're going to recommend, but I know it's a huge process. I had just moved here when the last one was underway, and there were an enormous number of public meetings. There was a lot of planner time and lawyer time, and I just think to reopen that at this moment, we have a lot of other fish to fry, so I think it's really important to make the plan accurate and to look ahead to what things might be revisited, but to start from, zero is, or even just to take the whole thing apart, seems to me a really big undertaking at this moment.
Right, and we're not planning to do that, but we are planning to ask each committee, what do you feel? Who does Amenia want to be in 5 years and 10 years?
So we'll have to have some public meeting from you guys. Invite the public out to have any kind of conversation.
Right, we have to first get it into something where the numbers are right, where Silo Ridge or what happened to Taconic DDSO is reflected accurately. Then we'll submit the plan to the board. You can review it. And it's important to remember that by state law, and I believe by federal law, all of the actions of every committee and the board itself has to be consistent with what's articulated in the comprehensive plan. So of course you'll have to review it because you're acting on behalf of what's stated. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
great.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for all the work you're doing on this.
A lot of people are doing
well, in general, but yes, thank you for coming up and speaking about it. But it was always my understanding that we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel here. Yeah, and that's what I want you to say, because Leo, what you were saying was a little confusing or just reminiscing on a possibility of redoing the whole plan. But my recollection on the board, since I've been on the board, that was not our intent.
No, we are not. We are not going to say, and we feel, and we should proceed with this. We're not doing that. But we are asking the committees what they feel should be explored in the future. Then you can decide, yeah, this is kind of in line with what we're planning now, with what our budget allotments have, it will work, and ultimately you'll have to decide to accept that or not.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
really, I urge everyone, we had 2 people show up at our last meeting this past Tuesday. For those who are watching at home or those here, please come to the meeting. Because June 11th is the next one, and what she said.
I'll say, I want to publicly thank Ms. Vicki Doyle for stepping up and acting as secretary for this committee. I know it's a tremendous amount of work. Not everybody can do it. So I would like to propose to the town board that we can see if we could find a way that we could maybe compensate her for all the time that she's putting in, because I'm sure she's doing a lot of work at home or when she has some downtime. These plans, it takes a lot to upload everything to the computer and everything, so maybe we could find a way to help her out on that.
We will investigate. And Brad, I was just going to say that the reason that this came up as a question is that most of the people on the Comprehensive Plan Committee have changed because it's been a long time since that idea started. And I remember, too, that when we were on the board, it was pretty clear that it was just going to be a factual update.
Yeah, I think they called it the Comprehensive Review Board. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yes?
The committee wants direction from the board.
Right. I mean, and we had not sent anything in writing to the committee, and that's what we will do.
Other than the one letter that...
Right, and that's, I think, basically we're going to just formalize that.
Okay.
Okay.
Kilns.
The Kilns, you're up.
Well, everybody read this. Do you want me to go through it?
Well, for the,
Okay. So for the Wassaic Kilns, the details of our ownership and operations for them, I had suggested we have a conversation with the Amenia Historical Society to designate them to oversee the site. And Leo had added if we could arrange access for schools or groups to get in closer, and also the question of can it accommodate more than 2 cars in the parking lot, right? Because there isn't much parking up there.
yeah, because I think it's just 2 spaces now.
Everybody's always just parked along the dirt road there.
Well, so I asked Ian about that, and we can't. It's actually private property.
Yeah, it is,
It's
but...
not part of the Kilns. I was like, oh.
So
oops.
back in the late 80s there, that's where we used to go and hang out and drink our beer. That street, that little road there is just known for the local community to be able to park and go fishing and stuff along the street.
It may be a problem in the school bus, though.
Well, yes, definitely with the
Yeah.
school bus. Maybe we could talk to Jack and Linda Gregory.
Maybe. So with that, with the Amenia Historical Society overseeing it, we would have them conduct quarterly reports to the board. And in the event that there are more urgent matters such as vandalism, they could report immediately to the supervisor. And then the question of do we consider cameras for off-site management and security? That's another question we should have answered. I think Ian said that it really wasn't necessary, but if you want to, we could look into it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that they're going to be...
I don't think
It's
we
necessary.
need to.
I don't think it's necessary for cameras.
I don't think if it hasn't happened now, and then you have to remember too, Bernie is still very much involved with this. So
Yes.
I think we can always talk to them, and if there's nothing that's been happening, I don't
Okay.
foresee it being a problem. But providing a sign saying dawn to dusk posted for hours of operation might be helpful, just to keep the riffraff out. The highway department could be responsible for plowing or clearing the parking area during the winter months. I'm actually going to jump to what, Leo, I think you had kind of spun off of that and said originally you investigated having it become a county or state historic. Were you able to look into that or no?
I didn't, but I
Okay.
mean, that was, at the time, I don't remember if it was the county or the state that Victoria was talking to, but at that time, there was a
get it out of our
moratorium on, excuse
To
me?
get it out of our hands, to make it so that,
Yeah, I mean, because they take care of a lot of other sites, but they had a moratorium just because of their own internal funding issues. So I will just double check that, just so we know.
well, if we do continue to have it be a part of the Amenia Historical Society, we would, once everything's finalized, I think we would just need to have it in writing, whether we amend the current contract with the society. And also, when we accept the resolution to accept the donation of them, or if we have to have a new resolution to transfer its ownership. I'm not sure how that was a question for Ian too.
Okay, so we will. Oh, and the other thing is we just have to check insurance, like whether
Right.
talk to our agent.
How much liability we need to add,
Yeah.
if any.
If
And
any.
then Ian suggested my last one on, once everything's finalized, just notifying the police department so they also have it on their radar too,
Yeah.
which might also help with not needing the cameras, so.
Okay.
So I think, with the gate there, it's really cool that somebody took their private money and put these kilns back together. It's real important for this community, I think. And then they put a little gate there on the front, so I don't think kids are going over there anymore.
The gate is just a split rail. I mean, it isn't like...
No, the actual entrance, they have a lock gate
Oh,
up there.
okay.
Of each individual kiln.
Okay. Great, hadn't seen that. So, is that it? Oh, so the zoning change, I think we should just talk about, since that was raised. I think that the issue there is at what point, well, first of all, whether we want to move ahead with this, but the specific request was to forward to the planning board the suggestion about the suburban residential district for them to review, as opposed to us reviewing. That may seem like a cop-out, but
Well, I think the planning board really has a lot on their plate right now, and that is a concern of mine. My other concern that I mentioned to you is, I mean, I look at that map and I can look at the SR areas, but as far as actual places, I don't see that. So I would like to see a list of the actual SR properties or where they're located. It's in pink. I know it's in pink.
no, it's actually, I think it's actually the green. No, that's rural agricultural. Suburban residential is that olive color. So it's basically surrounding the hamlet of Amenia and and then there's a little bit down at the bottom. I don't see anything in Wasaic.
It's Wasaic, isn't it?
It is Wasaic, but I don't think that's the same color.
HM and HR, no.
Why don't you lift it up?
Oh, sure, Charlie. Why don't you hold that up for people?
And it's pink.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's different on these two maps. That's the problem.
Oh, look at that.
It's this
No, it
pink
isn't.
area here. So this is, oh, sorry. This is Fresh Town. Oh, hold on, let's see. Oh,
You're going the wrong way.
it's too hard here to get up that high. Sorry.
I'm looking for streets, so I want to know streets.
I have another clip. How about that?
Here's 22. We're right here. Here's Town Hall.
Sorry.
So this is Fresh Town here. So, oh, that's make it easier. Yeah. So, and to be clear, you have to forward any zoning change to the planning board. So that's part of the process. So the planning board in Dutchess County can comment, and then those comments come back to the town board. And the town board can decide to pass a resolution to change it. So it's the very first part. But it's this area north on 22. And then when you go down into, as you're moving on Old 22, there's this small portion here along Old 22. So a couple of points. There's already multifamily housing in all of these areas. It already exists. It's just non-conforming because it was there before we did our zoning changes, 15 years ago. It also, people talk about being worried. You might not be able to hear me. Here, I'll walk over here.
I can hear you're loud.
There's been a lot of comments about oh my God, apartment buildings and all of that. We have very strong zoning requirements about how high buildings can be. Nothing can be more than 2 stories in any zoning district except for the hamlet mixed use, the center of the hamlets. There are setbacks from the street. There are, septic requirements. There's multiple requirements that would prevent what people may envision in their head as massive apartment buildings. This is really just allowing people to be able to develop for, multifamily homes, and it is the way to solve a housing crisis. Those are how apartments get built. Many of them you don't even know. We have many, many homes that have more than 2 units in them now.
That look like 2-story colonials.
That look like 2-story colonials. They have a door in the back, they have 2 doors on the side, and they're ultimately, wouldn't even know. It's a very small lift. So the ARC, this is a really prime example. The ARC, the old ARC 38 property on Old Route 22, if people don't know, it's that collapsing home. There used to be...
But very historic.
It's very historic, but there's just junk everywhere. Well, the frontage portion of that parcel is in suburban residential. And you couldn't put anything there. You could put 1 home, because of the way the property is. But that individual wants to sell it at a reduced price or give it to a nonprofit developer to put multifamily homes there. And 2 doors down, there are 2 multifamily homes, So to me, it's just a really easy thing. And if you go through our comprehensive plan, it time and time again mentions about the need for affordable housing, workforce housing, that multifamily homes are necessary. It also speaks, at the time that the plan was written, we had a really wide open code. I think that's very important to understand. And what was implemented was really amazing and forward thinking. This is the only use district that doesn't allow multifamily homes. We're not talking about changing what a lot can be. A lot still has to be an acre. That's a lot of land. And these are all very close to the hamlets, and the hamlets are the most dense part. This doesn't get rid of farmland. It doesn't get rid of any of that. So that's mine.
Well, I just wanted to say that seeing it on the map makes it clear that suburban residential is what surrounds the hamlet, and which means that it's inherently more walkable than anywhere else. And I've had, a tussle with George about this many times, but I think densifying the center is what preserves open space rather than cutting up open space into suburban lots. So, I think this is a really good idea. It makes no sense to me that suburban residential is restricted in this way when rural residential is not, or even rural agricultural. You're allowed, with planning board permission, to build multifamily houses anywhere else, and that actually does chew up farmland. So that's my.
So let me ask you a question.
I think we all got something to say to this.
All got something to say. Good.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Mygat Road, Sheffield Road, Yellow City Road, Depot Hill, Folan Road, Cascade Mountain Road, a section. Over here, yep, those are in SR.
So we're on my GAT, though.
Right here. This is Mygat. This is Mygat Road. This is Sheffield Road. This is Yellow City Road. This is Depot. Green areas are SR.
So I really would like to look at that.
Okay.
You can do what you want to do, but and one of the other things it says it says it needs to have septic and water, and to connect existing. We don't have any septic or wastewater. In this plan, it said, somewhere it said that they needed to have septic and water that they could hook into, which we don't have at this point. The other question that came up at the water committee meeting last night was that, there's concern about with all the building going on, especially the possibility of subdivisions up with Keene Stud and drilling all those wells. All that water is coming out of the same aquifer. So, I think the aquifers were kind of addressed, but I think we need to really look at that before we build too big. And the other thing is, when I looked at this chart, it said, and I actually think I got clarification, but it's not very clear here, it says multifamily 10 plus units.
Multifamily 10 plus units. Oh, that's how many,
Buildings
in other words,
exist.
the number of homes in Amenia. There are 48.
48 houses to have 10 plus?
No, 48 total units. Isn't that what that means?
Okay, I guess that might be what it means, but that's not kind
Which
of...
could mean 4 houses, which presumably would mean 4 buildings.
Okay.
One of them is in the center
Some
of
of
the
the
city.
problem, some of it I don't have an issue with. Some of those barns, if they can convert some of that stuff, the colonial houses, breaking them up into other apartments, they've done that, don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem of overbuilding too quick before we actually take a look at our wastewater. And again, it's one other big, huge thing that we're looking at. We're looking at that, and we're looking at the garage, and we're looking at wastewater, we're looking at water, and we're looking at, a park, and we're a small town, and some of this stuff somewhere is going to cost us a whole bunch of money, and I want to know where it's going to come from.
Can I speak?
Please.
All right. So whenever I was on a sewer committee, we did all of our investigation around here trying to ask everybody. There's multiple houses that have apartments above their garage, right? So it's already here. If this would encourage more people to convert the upper part of their apartment into, their garage into an apartment, that would be good for us. The young people are struggling, after COVID to be able to afford rent. My daughter came home for 2 years because her rent went from $800 a month to $2,000 a month. And that's just the reality. So she moved out of state because she couldn't afford to live here anymore. And that's a problem. I want my family to stay. I want the kids that are growing up here to be able to stay. We need to find a solution to be able to afford or to offer affordable housing or rental to the young people.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says I'm in favor of affordable housing, and then when it's proposed anywhere near them, they change their mind. So it's very frustrating because, the NIMBYism, not in my backyard, is always very strong about affordable housing. In fact, I read some article about how people who are more liberal tend to be worse about it than conservatives even. I think that we have got to, make a decision to fix this problem. And suburban residential, I mean, there are houses that are broken up into more than 2 apartments already, and no one even knows. I mean, you can't tell. So, I mean, my feeling is that it's really important to allow there to be more places where we can build multiple units, or there's never going to be any place for kids who graduate Weebatuck, or if there's no apartments, there's no place for seniors, there's no senior housing. I mean, there's no place for a lot of people who are needed workers in this community to actually live. So it has to be dealt with, and if everyone, finds a reason to say no, then it won't. And I just think that, I mean, again, Rosanna, there's no problem in delaying this or trying to, have more conversation about it. But I do think that this issue is not going away, and I do think it's much better having this hamlet in an area that's built, like suburban residential, than an area that is farmland, which I think is, which does allow it.
So my question to you then is, you have no projects that are planned for those particular places at this time?
No.
So why not wait until somebody wants to do it and then do it then, and do it piece by piece, rather than just blanketly do that? And how are you going to guarantee?
That would be spot zoning done.
And how are you going to, no, it isn't, because we've already done it. But how is it, how are we going to guarantee that some developer is not going to come in and build multi-family housing and not have it be affordable housing?
Well, I mean, there are incentives for affordable housing in terms of if you build like right now, if you build 10 units, one of them has to be affordable. If you make it 25%, you're allowed extra market rate units.
So I finished an affordable housing project down in New Canaan, Connecticut last year. There's federal regulations that controls how much they can charge. Like a lot of those people are living in these brand new.
She's asking.
That's not what I'm asking.
She wants to make sure that it's going to be affordable housing.
Well,
and
if they go and get federal funding, they're going to be regulated like that.
But so a rich person comes in and says, I'm going to build a multiple housing there for my friends, how are we going to prevent that? That's what I'm saying.
I don't think rich people do that, but it's a nice idea.
They already did.
Well, I guess you are the chair of the committee.
I just want to answer about why not wait. The reason is that a developer has to have the zoning in place. So if you effectively say no to this, then that's no. A developer will not come in. About what if it's not affordable? Well, we have a housing crisis here, and truthfully, we want more taxpayers. We have, our population in this town is diminishing. We have lower population than we did 10 years ago, and the more, if we even got back up to when DDSO, which was the good old days, we spread out our tax burden across more people. We need more people, we need more kids in Weebatuck, we need more people to volunteer for the fire department. We need those bodies. And this is a way that you can allow for development in areas that are close to the center of town. And the septic issue is all governed by Dutchess County. So you don't need municipal water and septic. We only have a very small district that has municipal water in this town. So that's not necessary for multifamily. Yeah.
But again, you said more people, but you didn't say more people that were living in affordable housing.
Well, I mean, I do know that the more housing there is, it relieves pressure on the housing that exists, which means that rents tend to be more affordable generally if there's places for other people to live. In other words, if there are more housing options. But what I wanted to say specifically, Rosanna, about the reason that it can't be done piece by piece is that's exactly what happened with the lovely people on, what hill is it? Spruce Hill. It wasn't zoned for suburban residential, so it makes it very easy for the neighbors to just stop anything that's moving in that direction because no one seems willing to say, I want affordable housing near me. If the zoning is changed, it means that there are options, and if a developer is more likely to come in because they don't have to struggle with that for every piece of property. I mean, I understand you may not feel comfortable making a decision now, but I think this is one of the few things that's going to get it built.
No, she's not the only one.
I wouldn't think you would vote yes for anything, Brad. Come on.
Well, you know, I can prove you wrong. In the record from tonight, there were some things I voted yes for.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's a nice change.
But again, so what you're saying is you just want to change it, and it really doesn't make any difference whether it's affordable or whether anybody comes in and develops it.
It has to go through the planning board, though, too.
It has to go
Anything
through the
that comes-
planning board.
I understand it has to go through the planning board, but again, if your goal is to create affordable housing, you're not really doing that by doing this. You're just saying we want to develop this land so multiple, and you could have beautiful multiple family housing that the board, that the town planning board says, oh yeah, that's fine, as long as we do our visual impact and all that other stuff. You know, we can have a mini whatever there, and golf course, whatever, and have another little club. So you know, I need, just asking you, how are we going to see that it is affordable housing, or doesn't it matter? Are we just looking for bodies to move into town?
Well, one of the things that Rosanna said earlier is that there's a lot on our plate right now, and she's right, and I brought this up several times beginning of the year in relation to the wastewater system, as you recall. And
I do recall, Brad.
And I do not, I didn't say I was going to vote yes or no on it. I just was agreeing with Rosanna, saying we want more time to evaluate this.
Oh, I mean, I totally am fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes
Yeah,
total
we're not-
sense.
Yeah, we're not voting on anything tonight for this,
No, we're
right?
discussing.
Well, we were going to make a motion, right?
For the plan, for the SR?
Yeah, but we would need a resolution, I think, before we could actually make it official.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, if you want to make a resolution, I can't guarantee I'm going to vote for it or not, but it'll give me more time to think about it.
I think you should take more time to think about it, and I think we should.
Because again, the other thing is, we talk about more volunteers for the fire company, but people aren't going to move in and automatically join the fire company. So in the meantime, the more people you have coming in, we have a limited fire company, you know, and again, in the school district, you know, I mean, you start, it's great to have more students, but if you have an influx of students, that creates a burden on the school district as well. So, you know, we have to look at all those things.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that if we only build luxury housing, which is all that has been built, except for individuals who are building their own houses, if we only build that, it means that it's highly unlikely that anyone's going to join the volunteer fire company.
I understand that, but if that's a mini club, they're not going to join either. I'm just saying, is there some way that we can say, okay, I'd be more happy about it if we could say this is going to guaranteed be affordable housing.
I mean, isn't Troutbeck part of their plan is to build their own housing for their workforce there? Isn't that part of the plan?
Yes, but not very many, but yes, they are.
I know, not for any, but it's, you know, so they're already, you know, we already know that there's a problem, that, you know, we have a place of business that their employees have to travel far.
Right.
So they've already submitted a plan to build, you know, housing for their employees, so.
Right. And Silo actually has complained about that too, that there's
Yeah.
no place for the people who work there to live.
I mean, whenever I first had my first apartment, it was $300 a month. Now one bedroom is $2,000. It's crazy.
All right, well, it's clearly a problem. We clearly need to discuss it some more. And, yeah, well, we'll discuss it more. Okay, so that's that. I think that instead of motions, it sounded like the things where there was consensus, we wanted a resolution drafted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And, okay, so we're not ready to forward to the planning board yet. I wanted to see if we can get an okay to investigate getting a part-time building inspector. We've had a long-time problem. We've had a long-time problem with enforcement of zoning. I mean, a big problem. I am very concerned that stuff that the planning board comes up with, or the zoning board, it doesn't get followed carefully. And we did have a second building inspector for a time. I think that while things have slowed a bit at Silo in terms of construction, I do think that there's a lot of stuff that, like the fact that there are 4 properties owned by the same person with junk vehicles on all of them. No one is like able to clean that stuff up, and I really think that we should hire someone 20 hours a week to focus on that and to take care of enforcement, which I think the town's been pretty lax with.
Excuse me, are we in other matters right now?
No.
Where are we on this agenda?
Oh.
We're off agenda.
It was added, I'm sorry, it was added.
It's not on the agenda, that's all I'm saying, what you're discussing.
I know, gotcha, you love that, Brad. Anyway, it isn't on the agenda, but I also want to say that I wanted to give you some warning, because in order to advertise for a position, we're not funding the position, we're trying to find out if there's anyone out there. And in this particular case, there was a class of graduates of the zoning, the county training for building inspectors, and I wanted to see whether any of the candidates, there were only 4 candidates that live within a reasonable commute of Amenia, and I kind of wanted to see what they were like.
Is 20 hours going to be enough to entice anybody to come?
Well, that's the question. I mean, I wanted to actually have an in-person interaction so I can find that out. Also, what kind of salaries they're expecting.
I think you should do that,
Yes.
because we have a lot of issues.
Well, and we tried replacing the last one, and we got a few resumes, but it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's been long overdue.
All right. Well, I would want to make a motion to that effect, which you can do without it being on the agenda, Brad. So I would like to move that we authorize the town clerk to advertise for a part-time building inspector, because I think the situation is really bad, and it's been bad for a long time, and we haven't gotten close to a solution.
I'll second that.
That discussion, I believe that we did discuss when we were on the town board together about creating resolutions and how we had agreed that Ian needed to do this.
It isn't a resolution, it's a motion.
Oh, you said resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a motion, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mistake.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebelard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ahern?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, now the resolutions we have, one is to appoint planning board members.
60.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's numbers. I thought
Drill
appoint
sergeant
60
station.
planning board members. It was like, whoa, no one told me. And let me just pull that out. Oh, it's not in this, it's in that.
6, 7.
Okay. Got the resolution in front of me.
We're going to have to change that resolution, right?
I thought we were gonna have to
Indubitably,
bring
hold
that
on a
to-
second. No, where's the correct one? Oh, thank you, Paul. Okay, so resolution number 60 of 2024, whereas there now exist 2 vacancies on the Town of Amenia Planning Board due to the resignation of Neil Kutznets, term expiring December 31, 2026, and Matt Deister, term expiring December 31, 2027, and whereas blank and blank. So I'm going to fill in the first name on our list, which we just covered. Okay, so let me fill this in. Whereas Ken Topolsky has expressed his desire to be appointed to fill the vacant position on the planning board, now therefore it be it resolved as follows: the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town board of the town of Amenia hereby designates and appoints Ken Topolsky to the town of Amenia planning board effective immediately as follows. And the appointment, the term would expire December 31, 2027. So
He's doing,
I'll make that,
So
I'm
So he's
sorry.
filling Matt Deister's.
he's just filling that designation.
yeah, I know, but he first said Neil. Is he?
No, Neil resigned, that was in
I
the,
know, but is he
He said
filling
both of
Neil's?
them.
or-
oh, I see what you're saying.
or Matt's spot.
You know, that's really odd, because they were going to do both. Oh, no, I see. Is it Matt's or
They're both
Neil?
on here, yeah.
Right.
Oh, so he's
You're
filling
filling Matt Deister's right now.
He's filling Matt.
Matt Deister, okay.
Deister, I'm sorry.
No, I could be wrong. You've been, All right, so are we clear, Erica? Is that okay? All right, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Revelard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have two more names to go through. I'll say, whereas there now exist 2 vacancies or 1 vacancy on the Town of Amenia Planning Board due to the resignation of, in this case, Neil Kurtznitz, and Lizette Foz Bullock has expressed her desire to be appointed to fill the vacant position on the planning board. Now therefore be it resolved as follows: the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town board of the town of Amenia hereby designates and appoints Lizette Foz Bullock to the town of Amenia Planning Board effective immediately. As follows, and that term would expire, that's Neil Kurtznitz, that term would expire December 31, 2026. I'll make that motion.
I'll second. I'm so used to saying it.
No, you've done a lovely job seconding. Okay,
Supervisor Blackman?
yes.
Councilmember Revelard?
No.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
No.
Councilwoman Ahern?
No.
Okay. So the next one that we have here is, whereas there now exist 2 vacancies in the Town of Amenia Planning Board due to the resignation of Neil Kurtznitz, term expiring December 31, and Jamie Vidiello has expressed his desire to be appointed to fill the vacant positions on the planning board. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, recitations blah blah blah. The town board of the town of Amenia hereby designates and appoints Jamie Vidiello to the town of Amenia planning board effective immediately with a term expiring December 31st, 2026. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. Need a second?
Second.
I want to open this up for discussion before we vote.
Sure.
All right, so we had a lot of excellent people that put their names up. There was 7. It's probably the most that's ever applied for positions, so that was really awesome, and we really want to express our gratitude to the community for doing that. I settled on Jamie Vitello because when I ran for the town board here, there was a lot of animosity going on between Troutbeck, Wassaic Project, and Silo Ridge. And there was some comments made whenever there was a fire. So part of this is to try to include Silo in the decision-making that goes on in this town. Jamie ran for town board 2 years ago. He serves on a lot of committees. I think that's the best choice. It's trying to make sure that everybody's inclusive in this community.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
So I agree with all Paul says, and I think that's true, except I do not think it's a good idea at this particular time. So I think that we do need to reach out, and we do need to make a community, and we need to have representative on all the boards, and I think we started doing that by appointing Juan
Torres
to the Rec Commission, and Mark Hussey to the Assessment Board.
And the Housing Board.
And the Housing Board, and I just feel at this particular time with, because after speaking with the lawyers, that it's not a good time, and I feel very badly about that, because I think Jamie is a great candidate, but I just don't think so at this particular time.
So, go ahead. I just want to speak to, never mind. I had a thought in my head and I lost it.
Do you want to go first, Brad?
Well, I don't think I'm first, but I have a comment. So his qualifications are stellar. He brings to the table a contingent network of state and federal agencies. Jamie actually grew up in Clinton Corners. So he is a Dutchess County guy. I spoke to the attorneys as well. I think we all spoke, and everything, even though there was false information put out there about Jamie for the person that put it out for their own purposes, it was clear there are no issues as far as I'm concerned. And I think, Nicole, you have something to add.
No, I'm just agreeing with you that we all spoke to
I
Ian.
remember what I wanted to say
And
now.
I think we
So-
all agreed. Go ahead.
I just want to speak to Rosanna's comment about appointing Juan Torres and who's
Mark
it?
Husky.
Mark Husky. They work for Stoneleaf, and they live in the community. Jamie Vitello is a resident that is just a homeowner up there. It's two separate, things going on here.
Three. We have three
yeah,
separate
three,
things. We have
right,
Silo
so-
Ridge. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
We have Silo Ridge. We have, who's owned by Discovery Land. We have the residents, and then we have Stoneleaf Construction, who is owned by Juan. And
Right. So, I mean, he's just a resident like anybody else in this community, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, my takeaway from the lawyers was that their concern was that there's potential conflict of interest if we put Jamie on the board, because virtually everything the planning board is dealing with in the next couple of years involves Silo Ridge or Siland. And there's also the spa at Silo. Well, I guess that means it's part of Silo. Anyway, the concern was that, their concern was that by having someone who is a member of the Silo Ridge community and owns a house there, that something like the spa, for instance, or Siland, which are facilities that are intended only for the use of people who live at Siland, that they felt that he couldn't be completely impartial on that, and that any project that came up, the lawyers would have to review for a conflict of interest, which seems to me like a really unfortunate thing, especially when we have all these other excellent candidates. Again, I like Jamie, and I would very much like to have him on a committee. I just don't think the planning board is the right one for him to be on, because I think that there are certainly conflicts of interest that the lawyers saw, and there's a huge amount of Silo business before the planning board, and so I would prefer if we didn't have someone who had to recuse themselves on a regular basis from their decisions.
Therein lies the rub, and that there's a bit of false information in there. And you could say that about any candidate, that they could potentially have a conflict of interest on just about anything. Our current planning board member, for example, Nina Peak, is a perfect example of that, being that her property is right next to the Keene Stud project, which is a Stoneleaf project, not Silo Ridge, by the way. Stoneleaf owns it. The Silent project is basically the community that Jamie lives in. He is not part of that project per se. Our parks and recreation in our town, we were all part of. So it's like their community has Cylon, the recreation park. We have our own recreation parks. There's a lot of different ways of looking at this.
But we let anyone use our recreation parks, Brad. No one gets to use Siland or the spa.
My point,
No, we don't let anyone in.
we're a little off task here, but I was talking about a potential conflict of interest, and you're pretty much saying because of Siland, well, he's going to have several potential conflicts.
So I spoke to a recent appointed member of the Ethics Committee, and he didn't see a problem with us appointing Jamie. It would be like saying that if someone that lives in a condo complex that joins the association, they can't make any decisions if they're a member of the planning board. He's just a resident in the town paying taxes just like the rest of us.
Okay, well,
He's not profiting from anything
Just to say that, you did not go to the entire ethics board, and you chose to speak to a person who just got appointed to the ethics board.
And if you want to put it before the ethics board, then I'm okay with that. But I just think that, we've been told by the lawyers that they have concerns because it does affect him financially, because it involves the cost of his house and the dues that are paid and various other things. And that seems to me a pretty clear potential conflict. I mean, I'm just talking about Siland.
I'm not going to argue that point, but that's exactly what the lawyers told me about Nina Beek.
Well, you can bring that up separately, but we're not voting on her right
Well,
now.
I'm just saying, she's on the planning board right now, and she has been for several years. I think, Jim, you're making a face, but, yeah.
I don't understand, but what does that have to do with anything?
You're talking about Keen
Bring
Stun?
that up.
Anybody can have a potential conflict of interest, is what Leo was saying.
James, if you're going to speak, can you step up to the microphone,
Yeah.
please?
Potential conflict of interest is what
Well,
Leo was saying.
I mean,
The other point that was made was that when you have recused, and maybe Nina's going to recuse herself. I mean, I don't know that she is or isn't,
She hasn't.
with Keen Stud.
It's an ongoing project.
well, Keen Stud also started before she was on, I mean, started after she was on the planning board.
But the fact of the matter is, if you have somebody on the board that has to recuse themselves, we have a committee that is notorious for having people not showing up for meetings.
I don't think that'll be a problem this time around. Everybody's pretty excited about the change going on in this town.
Okay, so let's vote.
Yes.
Yeah, we can vote.
We can vote.
Yes?
Supervisor Blackman?
No.
Councilmember Rebellard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
No, not at this time.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ahern?
Yes.
Okay, so that passed. Do I need to read this again, or I think we did it, okay. All right, I guess that should be Resolution 61 then?
61. What is it?
Which one is that?
The
Federal.
Highlands is 61, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Highlands is 61.
Yes.
I don't have that one.
You don't have this one?
Wait. No, we need 60 and 61 are the two planning board ones.
No, it's
No, no.
60 is the
That-
same.
60
Yeah.
is all one, now it's 61.
Oh, it's all one, okay, okay.
You just
got
read
it?
it twice.
You want mine?
No, we voted separately, that's why I thought we had to do it as two separate ones.
All right, 61 is Highland.
Okay, so the next is authorizing request for the town of Amenia to join federally designated lands of the Hudson Valley.
Whereas the Highland region encompasses more than 3 million acres of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, whereas the Highland region is in an area of national significance possessing substantial natural beauty containing contiguous forests, productive farmland, numerous cultural sites, historic sites, plentiful recreation opportunities, and the protection and supply of an important drinking water source for over 15 million people. Whereas the Congress in bipartisanship passed the Highlands Conservation Act, Public Law 10421, was signed into law by the President of the United States on November 30th, 2004, designating the Highlands as a significant national conservation priority region. And whereas the Highlands Conservation Act authorizes the Secretary of Interior and the Secretary of Agriculture to provide financial assistance to the Highlands states to preserve and protect high-priority conservation land in the Highlands region. And whereas the United States Fish and Wildlife Services manages a volunteer program to assist Highland states, local units of government, and private forests, and farm landowners in the conservation of land and natural resources in the Highlands region in coordination with the willing sellers. This is a long one. Whereas the land preservation efforts in the Highlands region should link the parks, historic sites, wetlands, wildlife habitats, streams, rivers, reservoirs, watersheds, trails, scenic and natural lands, and the protected areas unique to the region for the enjoyment of future generations. Now, therefore, it be resolved as follows. The recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The Town Board of the Town of Amenia supports being officially included in the federal Highlands boundary as maintained by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the Highlands Conservation Act grant program, thereby qualifying for financial and technical assistance provided by the U.S. Congress.
Wow. You're going to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebellard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Brad,
next
thank you.
resolution, number
62.
62.
Okay. Authorizing the closure of Main Street for Classic Car Show and Flower Event. Whereas the town of Amenia will be hosting a Classic Car Show and flower event on Saturday, May 25th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And whereas Jeff Barnett Wimsley, co-executive director of the Wasake Project, has requested the closure of Main Street from the intersection of Firehouse Road to County Route 81 during the time of this event for public safety reasons. And whereas pursuant to Section 104 of the Highway Law of the Town of Amenia, Highway Superintendent has filed a certificate of notice to close the highway, which is annexed hereunto, made a part hereof, and whereas the town board of the Town of Amenia has the authority to close the highways in the Town of Amenia and to allow for public assembly pursuant to Vehicle and Traffic Law 1160. Now, therefore, it be resolved as follows. The recitation set forth and above and incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, pursuant to the Vehicle and Traffic Law 1160, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby directs that Main Street from the intersection of the Firehouse Road to County Route 81 shall be closed on Saturday, May 25th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the Classic Car Show and Flower Event. Okay, hang on here. Number 3, copy of this resolution be sent to Jeff, that a copy of this resolution be sent to Jeff Barnett Wimsley, co-executive director of the Wasake Project, the Wasake Fire Department, and Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, the New York State Police, and Superintendent of Highways. Motion made by, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And I should point out that this is actually in Wasaic, which is part of Amenia. But the main street they're talking about is Wasaic's Main Street.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Revillard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.
Rosanna, do you want to take the next one?
Resolution number 63, extending submission deadline of requests for qualifications for engineering services in connection with the Town of Amenia Water District Number 1. Whereas the town board of the Town of Amenia authorized the formal solicitation for requests for qualifications for engineering services for the Town of Amenia Water District Number 1 on May 2nd, 2024, requiring the deadline for proposal responses be submitted no later than by 2 p.m. May 31st, 2024, and whereas the town board wishes to extend the aforementioned submission deadline. Now therefore be it resolved that the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town, and 2, the town board hereby extends the proposal response submission deadline to 2 p.m. June 6, 2024. I make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Revillard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any other matters?
Yes. I just wanted an update on some things that we gave approval for a few meetings ago, and just wondering where they're at.
Okay.
The Amenia signs.
The Amenia signs, let's see, the signs are made, the frames, the person who's putting the frames together had some problem, and there was a delay with the carpenter who was putting them together. As soon as they are assembled, that'll go up.
The parking lot lines?
The parking lot lines is really in Stoneleaf's hands at this point. I mean, I know when we last talked about it, there was a concern about it being too cold. It clearly is not too cold now. But I mean, they're doing that. I mean, I can nag them if you want me to.
Actually, the parking lot lines, it has to be about 50 degrees for the to adhere properly.
Oh, all right. Well,
Oh,
I mean,
And
presumably-
most often, the companies come and do it in the middle of the night when nobody's around. At 1 o'clock in the morning. I've done it a few times
right.
with them.
Okay.
but a good question.
And then the traffic light radar thing at Maplebrook.
That's my fault. I have to follow up on that.
Also, I got a
DOT,
email
I
from,
think, is
What?
was it DOT that you needed to follow up with?
I got a email from Gabrielle asking if there was any further conversation concerning the red light here in the center of town of adding an extra turn signal light on it. The young lady that came and gave the proposal asking for that.
Oh, what we were told by the DOT is that there isn't enough room to have a turning lane, and if we had another light there, it would just mean that people would have to be stuck behind a person who is given permission to go but has to cross other traffic.
Right, I think they established that we can't have 2 lanes there.
Right, but what about the advanced green, like they do down in Millerton?
It's
the advanced green?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So it stays red on one side, and the traffic coming south can turn into Millerton.
It's a three-way.
I think that's what Leo was just saying, it would back up traffic if we had a green arrow with one lane.
It's a three-way
right?
intersection there, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 and this is 4, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but what they did do is they made it better for pedestrians, but it doesn't do much for drivers in terms of crossing there. Anything else?
No.
I have a public announcement. Bob and Alethea Mead, whenever they responded to my email about term limits, they informed me there's a roast beef dinner in South Amenia this Saturday, May 18th at the South Amenia Church. Takeout is from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Parish Hall, 229 South Amenia Road, Wassaic. In addition to the charcoal roast beef, the menu includes mixed green salad rolls, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, and homemade desserts. The cost is $16 for a full takeout meal. Reservations are requested. Please call 845-789-1206, 877-3939, and 373-9959 afternoon on Saturday. I did put this up on a social media site, so if anybody needs that phone number, just go to my page, and you will see the information there.
Great, thank you. That's it?
I have some.
Oh.
So the Weaver Tech Teachers Association is having clothes and toys giveaway Saturday, May 18th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. At the Millerton Library. It's gently used toys and clothes that they give away. And then also, just to follow up a little bit on what Jim said about the traffic, there are a lot of cutoffs now. I'm noticing that Sharon, so if we look at that road, maybe we should look at all of them. Sharon Station Road, which is also a town road from that one spot down from the ore bed down, and we're getting a lot of truck traffic cutting through on that road, and the people that live on there are really concerned about their livestock, their animals, and the speed of those trucks, because that is a winding road as well.
That road is kind of high. It's 45 through there.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, it's my bus route.
So it's
Well, it was just a farmland road for a long time, but now things have changed. What I've noticed is in the communities that I've worked in where they had the speed bumps in the residential area, it really slows traffic down. I think that would be a great, easy way to solve that problem.
Yeah, I think that's allowed on town roads, but not on county or state roads.
But that-
No, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, I will talk to Megan about the town road
Aren't we
issues.
supposed to be authorizing RFP for highway garage to be advertised?
It wasn't, it got finished, but he wanted comments. It just came yesterday, so it was kind of too late to
And the RFQ,
distribute it.
highway, and extending the deadline for the RFQ regarding engineering the Weaver.
That's the one we just voted on.
Okay, that one. Okay.
That one, but the last one I had to take off because there wasn't time to distribute it to everyone.
Gotcha.
and what about the transfer of funds
I'm
one?
ready to go to bed.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
The transfer of funds one?
Oh, yeah, the transfer of funds one.
Oh, yeah, that's your other matters.
Right.
That would be resolution
That would be
64.
64?
I don't have that one.
I have it in the email.
Talk about technical difficulties.
Here,
There's a folder in there, it's not.
other matters.
It's not in your,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's in the folder, other matters.
Did I not empty the
Its
folder?
own
I did
folder.
not empty the folder.
Do we have to
Okay.
get this folder back, or can
Do you want to read this one?
Do you want me to? Sure.
Sure, why not?
you got it?
Is it 63?
64,
64?
I believe.
Yes, 64.
64. All right, transfer funds. Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary or unanticipated to amend the budget, and whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing line 2260.0 01, Public Safety Services, by $1,223.60, and increasing 30204.01, Public Safety, is it Commerce Service? By $1,223.60 for DC Sheriff Services for Congregation Beth David. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing line 16201.01.066 by $2,400 and it decreasing 80204.01 by $2,400 for increase in audio visual tech salary due to new taping of planning and zoning board meetings. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing lines 16202.01 by $1,725 and decreasing 19004.01.049 by $1,725 for 3 new Town of Amenia signs. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board authorizes the transfer of necessary budget lines to process the transactions. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I will note that I hope it's for 4 Town of Amenia signs, but this was broken into 2 pieces, so maybe that's why it's written that way.
Okay, so it's really 4.
What?
Is it really 4?
Well, that's what was proposed, and that's what I think they're putting up, but,
Okay.
but with that exception, I think we can vote.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebelard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.
Okay, anyone else? Last chance.
I think we covered a lot.
Wow.
It's almost 10 o'clock. It's way past my bedtime.
Oh, my lord, you have to go to sleep. Okay, well then I think we should vote to adjourn.
I'll second.
That's all we see.
9:49.
I'm sorry, what was that?
49.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Rebelard?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Winters?
Yes.
Councilmember Ahern?
Yes.